Welcome to Catskill Weiss Schwarz. Today I will be doing a set review for the newest Weiss set, Makeine Too Many Losing Heroines. For anyone who doesn't know, this is a set that's based on a show which was originally based on a light novel, following this guy who's the guy that's way off in the back there, who meets these various girls in his school who all get rejected by their love interests, and he just sort of helps them through it. Very flavorfully, Bushy Road released this set on February 13th, the day before Valentine's Day, which is just sort of hilarious since none of them find love. But this set came out in Japan last year. We just got it to English. I think this is a very underrated set. I'm very glad that we got it. The show is very, very good. I haven't read the light novels, but the show is very great, very nuanced, very understated. And the set is also like that. The set is chock full of some really good cards. There's really one card that most people talk about when they talk about this set, which I think is a disservice to this set because this set just has a lot going for it. There's some really cool combos, there's some really good utilities, some really great zeros, good things at 1, good things at 3. There's a lot going on for the set. The set looks beautiful. The show is done by A1 Pictures. They do some really solid animation, and even though a lot of the cards in the set are screen grabs, when a show just looks great. A lot of the show looks just as great as this image right here. So the cards look great. Really great set overall. It hasn't necessarily made the biggest splash in the JP meta. Not that it doesn't, top every now and then or whatever. But I think that this set hasn't really exploded in the meta there. I've seen a lot of people over the last year sort of talk about how this was one of the weaker sets released in JP during the year it came out. Sort of similar, they put it sort of up there with Dan to Dan in terms of ranking it very low. And just like Dan to Dan, I think this is actually a very underrated set. It's not necessarily the single most powerful set we received in the last year or two, but I think it's a very well-rounded set. I think there is a lot to like here. And if anyone is wondering, that it seems like we have had a lot of set reviews lately. This is the third set review we've had in the last 3 weeks. That's because Bushy Road has really been pumping out sets. This set came out February 13th, just 2 weeks after Danadan came out, which in and of itself was 1 week after Girls Band Cry. So Bushy Road really has just been pumping out sets pretty fast. We have a bit of a break, a few weeks until we get our next set, which will be Fairy Tale, and then a couple weeks after that, we'll be getting Oshinoko Volume 2. But this set came out at just the right time. I hope the set does very well in terms of sales and people picking it up. So far, I'm recording this 2 days after release. Things seem to be a little slow. Not a ton of people seem to really be posting about it too much, just a few. Definitely not at the level of something like Dan to Dan in terms of just so many people were opening it up and posting about it and making decks and excited to build it, which I think is a tad sad as someone who really enjoys the show and enjoys the set. I am very excited to really get started with it. I've played it a good chunk on the simulator, and I've just really enjoyed it so far. So in this video, I am going to be covering, like in my other set reviews, going to be talking about different level 1 combos, level 3 combos, talking about some cool zeros, talking about anything that's really good utility in the set, just giving an overall set review. We'll talk a little bit about the collectability of the set and what I think its impact on the meta might be. So without further ado, let's get started. Whenever I look at a new set, the first thing I do is look at the level 3 combos. So that's where we're going to start here. In other set reviews, I have started from zeros or level 1s. For this one, I think the level 3 combos, there's a lot of stuff to like here. So I just wanted to get some of the really cool stuff out of the way, just because I really wanted to talk about it. I like to look at level 3 combos first when reviewing a set, because I sort of like to know how powerful a set's top end is. I like to know how far away from level 3 I can kill my opponent from. I like to just see some unique designs and that sort of thing. I feel like Weiss is a big game in terms of build up towards just being able to have explosive finishers, and it just feels really powerful when you're able to triple your combo and just deal lots of big consistent damage against your opponent. So maybe that's why I really like gravitating towards just reading the level 3 combos first before looking at the rest of the set. So Makeine is a set that got a booster pack and a trial deck. So the first level 3 combo we're going to look at is the level 3 combo from the trial deck. It is this Lemon. She is one of the three main females in the show. She is one of the losing heroines from the title. Like the other two, she has her crush and she gets rejected. This is her combo from the trial deck, her level 3 combo from the trial deck. For trial deck standards, it's actually a very solid combo. On play, when you play her out from your hand, you look at up to X cards from the top of your deck, and you pick one from among them and add it to your hand. X is equal to the number of Adolescence characters you have. Adolescence is the dominant trait in the set. Almost everything has Adolescence trait. There are a few character cards that do not have Adolescence. Adolescence will refer to pretty much any of the student characters, which are the vast majority of characters both in the show and that are represented in the set. There are some teacher characters that will not have Adolescence trait. Those don't really matter so much. So pretty much when you see Adolescence being mentioned on a trait, it's pretty much going to be any card realistically that you're going to play in the set. Now her actual climax combo is when she attacks, if you have the climax, which is a choice climax, in your climax area, you may pay the cost, which is discarding any card. If you do, you reveal the top card of your deck. If that card is an event or an Adolescence character, you stand this Lemon, and she gets 1,000 power until the end of turn, and then the revealed card goes back to its original position. This for a trial deck combo is actually pretty strong. It is a very, very cheap restander. We have seen restanders for many years. Very typically, the sort of cost that we will see on a restander is something like on attack, but typically end of attack, you pay 2, you pay 3, somewhere along those lines. You discard a card, sometimes discard 2 cards, though more recent restanders are getting cheaper. Sometimes they require a reverse, sometimes they don't. I think the trade-off for this one being one of the cheapest restanders that we have ever seen is because she does have two things working against her despite being so cheap. The first is that you have to pay the cost no matter what to reveal the top card of your deck, and she can whiff. If you hit a climax, or if you hit a non-Adolescence character, which again I don't think for pretty much anyone building Makeine it's really going to be an issue. The teacher cards aren't really worth playing, and there's not many of them to begin with. But if you reveal something that's not an Adolescence character, so like a climax, will be the most common thing. She will whiff and she will not stand. So that could be a problem sometimes. It's sort of just a risk you take when you have such a cheap combo. It's just them trying to balance the card. They make it really cheap. They make her dig for her own cost by letting you add a card. So it's very cheap to play her out. You only need 6 stock up front. She doesn't cost any stock to use, so you still get to build some stock. She also is only swinging at 12k with her effect, and with the climax out, you could pump her up with like an assist in your back row or something like that. But the problem with being 12k, normally it doesn't matter for a restander, because most restanders will typically happen end of attack for the most part. So if they lose their battle, it doesn't really matter because after they battle, you do the restand effect. So even if your own character got reversed, it will then stand anyway as long as you pay the cost. This happens on attack, so it's actually before the battle. So you attack, you discard a card, reveal the top, assume you don't whiff on it, you stand it, and then you deal the damage, and then you go to the battle. And so if your opponent's character was bigger to start with, or if they use a backup to make it bigger than this Lemon, then this Lemon will then get reversed. So you sort of paid the cost for nothing, and she already did her restand, so now she's just reversed and you don't get your extra attack. I think most of the time it doesn't really matter. Trial deck combos typically are not going to be the most explosive broken cards ever. So I think if you like Lemon, this is not a bad combo to play. There are some incentives to playing this combo, even though it's definitely not the best level 3 combo in the set. If you just like Lemon and you like cheap level 3s, some people like having cheap level 3 combos because it lets them in terms of resource management, it makes your deck a lot more efficient. You can spend stock a little more liberally throughout the game. You could spend hand a little more liberally throughout the game. You can save your stock for other things, like this set does have a money counter, and even though it's a full field money counter, and we'll talk about that later, that is something you could still very well do, since this costs no stock to use. So there are two trade-offs to making this so cheap, but there are positives also for a trial deck combo. Absolutely not bad at all. You pick up a couple trial decks, which you'll need if you want to get 4 copies of everything on the trial deck. And this is a perfectly serviceable level 3 combo. Probably better than most level 3 combos that we get in trial decks. Trial decks have been getting notably better in the last few years, and I think this is a prime example of that. Next up, we'll move on to the booster pack level 3 combos. This is another lemon. This one is on a bar. During your turn, she gets 4,000 power. So on her own, she is 12k on your turn. That's before assist, that's before the climax, that's before her own effect. So swinging at 12k is not bad. When you play her out from hand, you get to heal 1. And then her climax combo is when she attacks. If you have the bar, you could pay a stock, discard a card from your hand. If you do, you look at the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck, choose up to 3 cards from among them, put them on top of their deck in any order, put the rest into their waiting room, and this lemon gets 1000 power until end of turn. So she will be 12k with her own effect. With the climax combo, she goes up to 13. With the climax out, she will be 14. Any potential assists you might have could boost her even further. At the end of the day, though, this lemon is just a Mocha 3. She is a relatively cheap Mocha 3. Mochas are fine. They're really not crazy most of the time. They really don't see much play, certainly not in the modern game. They don't necessarily help close out games. This lemon, though, does have a little bit more going for it. It doesn't necessarily... It definitely helps fix the problem of mochas, but it doesn't necessarily make this finisher the best, but it does make it something where usually I kind of don't like this effect too much, because a lot of the time whenever I've played a mocha, if I see a climax in those 3 and I dump it, all I do is I dig them 1 card closer to a climax and they cancel anyway. Mochas generally only feel good if you just hit multiple climaxes, or if you don't see any climaxes at all and you just swing 3 clean and you stick that. Because usually if you see 3 clean cards on top, and then you trigger and you're swinging for 4, well, now they're just going to cancel on 4. That's how it always happens with mochas. But this set does a little bit to help mitigate that, because there is this event, a favor for the first time and last time event. It's a green event that says if you do not have a copy of this event in memory, and you have a copy of this, and you have a copy of this I believe it's a level 0 card, which we'll look at later. If you have that sends itself to memory, if you have a copy of a level 0 Mitsuki and Lemon in your memory, all of your Track Team Girl Lemons, which is this level 3 combo here, they get 3000 power, and the following ability until end of turn. It's an accelerate ability. When this lemon attacks, you may pay the cost, which is to put the top card of your deck into your clock. If you do, you deal 1 damage to your opponent. And when you use this event, you send it to memory. The event does cost 2 stock, so I believe the condition for the other character that you need in memory is to pay a stock to send it to memory. So realistically, if you want to triple this Mocha Lemon with the event and actually use the event's effect, you will need 6, 8, 9. You will need 10 stock up front. You will need 6 stock to play out triple lemon. You'll need 2 stock to put the event into your memory, so that's 8. You will need 1 stock to send the Mitsuki and lemon that needs to be in memory, so that's 9, and then you will need the 10 stock to do the on attack effect. That is a big stock requirement, so that is something that is you got to really think about. It's not as simple as just having 7 stock up front to use the effect. Now, this event is optional. You do not have to have it. You could just play, you could play it and just do Mocha 3 and hope that works. The event, though, I think really enhances this lemon, particularly if you are going to triple it. So there is a big advantage to tripling the lemon, because most of the time Mochas don't deal extra instances of damage. There are some mochas that do, Notably the Itsuki from Quint's movie set, which is a burned 3 and a mocha 2 combined. There's the Lair from Bane Dream, which is a burned 2 and a mocha 1. There is a Miku from Quint's, which is an Icy Tail 2 and a mocha 2. So this one, though, is sort of guaranteed damage. Not guaranteed damage, but at the cost of damaging yourself, you deal 1. So what's really great about this is the versatility behind it. Because both of them happen when the lemon attacks, whether you're using the event burn effect or you're using the lemon mocha effect, you can choose which order you want to do it. So you can get the burn ones and the mocha, or the mocha burn ones. I think the best way to go with this is just to do the burn 1 and then the mocha 3. If you snipe a climax off the top with the event, I think that's okay, especially if you see another climax off the mocha. Odds are you'll probably stick the burn ones. So at that point, if you triple this lemon, just assume you stick all 3 burn ones. That is very, very solid because you're getting 3 damage into your opponent's clock there. And then at that point, all you really need to do is maybe stick 1 mocha, maybe if it triggers, so you're swinging for 4, and that's like a level's worth of damage. And even if you don't trigger, that is almost a level's worth of damage. So I think combined, these 2 effects are very powerful. The only real downside is that if you don't kill your opponent, well, you just dealt damage to yourself, because you do have to damage yourself in order to get the burn ones. But I think that the cost is a little too high. I think the damaging yourself is fine. I think the issue is that this event is a little too costly when you also need another character in memory that doesn't just go to your memory for free. Notably, you cannot stack this, by the way. It does say you can't have another, you can only use the effect if you don't have another copy of it in memory. So you can't start getting burn 1 twice on your lemons. But I think that's fair. But this probably should have been an event that was maybe 1 stock instead. A 3-1 I think would be a little bit better. Also, the fact that it's a 3-2 means you kind of have to just hold it in your hand until you get to level 3. I think it's also an event that should have been like a 2-1, so you could use it at 2. The issue being that the lemon also requires you to discard a card. So the problem there is you need a really, really big hand at level 3 to, in addition to a whole lot of stock, in order to successfully resolve 3 copies. And I think resolving any less than 3 copies makes it infinitely harder to realistically kill your opponent, because at the end of the day, it is just a mocha 3 with a burn 1 attached to it. So you would need 3 copies of the lemon, you would need the climax, you would need this event, and then you would still need 3 cards in your hand in order to pay the discard cost for the lemon itself. That is 8 cards total. That gives you very, very little leeway in terms of if you're having a rough game and you're sort of maybe running out of cards in your hand at level 2 and you don't have a full hand going into level 3. It is sort of problematic. Now there is a 2-1 lemon that will grab the event, so that makes it a little bit easier, but there are drawbacks to it. I think it's fine. When I first read it, I really didn't like it, especially when I read that you couldn't stack the event, but the event does help. There is a really good level 1 choice combo that you could play to help you with that stock requirement. There's also a really good level 1 event that we're going to talk about later that stock charges you. It gives you 1 stock and then potentially gives you a 2nd stock. I think that is almost a necessity if you're going to play it with this lemon, just to get enough stock to actually meet that requirement. I think if you manage, though, to get 3 copies of this lemon and you're able to use the event's burn 1 effect and you could pay the cost for all 3 lemons, I think you have a very expensive but a reliable finisher at that point. So a little, not the best combo in the set for sure, a lot of setup, pretty costly, but it's definitely one of the better mochas we've seen in a while. Though mocha is still a mocha, so make of that what you will. But For anyone who likes lemon, they'll probably enjoy this. And the event is always optional, and it is a lot easier to just play 3 copies of the lemon without all the setup needed to do the event. So if you like lemon, this is a perfectly good option if you don't want to play the lemon level 3 from the trial deck. Now there is a level 1 lemon that we are going to talk about when we look at the level 1 combos. That lemon can stock charge you, and that is on a bar, so you could do 8 bar, but we will talk about the weaknesses of that combo later and why maybe it's not the best combo to pair with this level 3 lemon. Next up, we have this Of Whom Her Eyes Reflect Chica. She is another one of the losing heroines in the show. She is on a door climax. Her effect is when you place on stage from hand, draw up to 2 cards, discard 2 cards to your waiting room, and then put up to 1 card from the top of your deck into your stock. So she is a very, very cheap card to play out. You're effectively playing her out with 1 stock. Now, her effect is draw up to 2 cards. However, you must discard 2 cards. So if for whatever reason you don't want to draw the full 2 cards, you still do need to discard 2 cards. But most of the time, I don't think that's really going to be an issue. It's just something to be mindful of. But the blind stock is always nice. Now, she doesn't heal or anything like that, but I think that's a very, very cheap condition. It's always nice when your level 3s replenish some stock, and the draw is not bad. It helps fix your hand a little bit if you need to dig for the climax or dig for another copy of herself or whatever you might need. Now, our actual climax combo is at the beginning of your Encore step. If you have the door climax in your climax area and she's in your center stage and you have another Adolescence character, you may pay the cost, which is pay 1, discard an Adolescence character. If you do, deal 3 damage to your opponent. I think this is a perfectly fine, perfectly acceptable level 3 combo. It's not the most explosive combo ever. At the end of the day, it is really just burn 3. However, we have seen that there is a big benefit to combos that maybe sacrifice explosiveness and multiple instances of damage in favor of being very efficient combos, such as Maureen, which has been around for many years now, and that's just a burn 2, but it helps play 3 copies of her very easily. The Maureen, this is very similar because you're basically playing out 3 copies for just 1 stock each. That makes it very, very cheap. It means that if you're having a rough game and you had to spend a lot of your stock throughout the game, you could still very easily triple this. You do not need much stock at all to do it. The dig is nice. I also think there is a big benefit to this being start of Encore step. As mentioned, there is a money counter in the set. The money counter does require 3 stock. Now, it does require a full field, but assuming you have a full field, let's say you swing 3 times with triple Chica, you go to Encore step, and you realize that your opponent just canceled a ton, and they've got climaxes in there. Maybe you don't think it's worth it to actually do the burn 3s. Maybe you can't kill your opponent. Maybe your opponent canceled a lot at 2 and got really lucky. Maybe you don't want to push them to 3 with the burn 3s. It's always nice to have the option to wait to sort of see how your damage lands before you actually go to use your effect. Not that there's anything wrong with on attack deal damage, but there is a benefit of being allowed to wait until Encore step. Now, there is a downside to that as well. The downside being that she is susceptible to memory kick, or she's susceptible if there was something out there that when it gets reversed, for example, sends a level 3 character somewhere else that isn't the board, which no one's playing anything like that really, except maybe Seven Deadly Sins with their Escanor, which you could always side. You don't need reverses or a clear field or anything. So you could always side if need be, if you were going up against something that had some sort of on reverse effect to send this Chica somewhere else. But she is susceptible to memory kick. She is pretty weak, being only 11-5 with the climax, without any sort of assist behind her. So it is possible your opponent could memory kick her. Some people do play memory kick. It's something that does come up now and then. It's something to be mindful of. I do not think that's really that big of a deal for this combo, though. I think it has enough going for it that's really not too much of a negative against it. I really do like this combo. I think it's very fair. I think 8 door there's a good level 1 door combo in the set. There is a very good door support at level 1 in the set. Red is a good color for the set. There's some good cards at level 0 that are red, good cards at level 1 that are red. So I think this is a perfectly serviceable level 3 combo. That's good if you like Door, and it's good if you like Chica. I don't think there's anything wrong with this. 8 Door does have a lot of synergy specifically in this deck, and 8 Door is not necessarily bad to begin with. So there are benefits here if you like it. Next up, we have one of my favorite level 3 combos from this set, Big Brother's Jacket. Kaju, this is the little sister of the main character who is pictured to the right there, whatever his name is, can't even remember. But this combo has the potential to do a lot of instances of damage if things go your way. On play, if you have another Adolescence character, you may heal one. It is a little odd that she does need that other character in order to heal. You're going to need other characters anyway because her climax combo does require at least three other characters on your board. But that is something to be mindful of, that you do need another Adolescence character in order to get the heal. It doesn't really matter. You should have a Brainstorm or something like that in your back row. But I think people do get very used to when they see that their level 3 combo heals, they may not even realize that this one could potentially whiff it, though I don't think it's ever come up in my testing. But onto her Climax combo, which is very, very interesting. Her Climax combo is if you have the choice Climax, which is the Climax that pairs with her, you can pay 2, discard any card from your hand, and you can reveal one of her big brother, Kazuhiko, which is this guy right here. You reveal this specific card in your hand. If you do, you deal 2 damage to your opponent. You also need 3 or more other characters on stage. So if you pay all that cost and you meet the board requirement, you burn 2. If that damage is canceled, you burn 2 again. If that damage is canceled, you burn 2 again. Now, this combo is basically a very expensive way to sort of ensure that you stick a burn 2. This combo is very, very good at sort of just burning through your opponent's deck and just going through climaxes. One of my favorite things about this combo is just burning 2. I want them to cancel the burn 2. I want them to cancel as much as possible because I just want to get climaxes out of their deck. So go for a burn 2. They cancel. Maybe they cancel that. Get another burn 2. At that point, I've already cycled through at least a couple of climaxes from their deck. Maybe they cancel the third burn 2, and then I actually do my trigger step, and I do my Swain. In the 8 choice deck, which I think is the best way to play this, you are playing a whole bunch of soul triggers in it, which is almost unusual, ironically, for 8 choice, but there are a lot of 1/0s in this set that have soul triggers that are in yellow, so you have a ton of soul triggers in this deck compared to a normal 8 choice deck, which sometimes, ironically, can be lacking in soul triggers, despite the fact that it needs soul triggers for the choice trigger. So it's not unreasonable to be triggering on the Kaju, and now you are swinging for 4, or if you're swinging direct, you're already swinging for at least 4. Hopefully the burn 2 snipes some climaxes out of the way. This has an insane amount of reach. Now, the Kazuhiko that you need to reveal on attack is the guy to the left. He is not a bad card. He is when he attacks, you pick one of your Adolescence characters and you give it 1500 power until end of turn, which is fine. It's not the craziest thing ever, but his other effect is he's basically a helmet. So you discard a card and you send him to a waiting room to pick an Adolescence character in your waiting room and return it to hand. Now, the only difference with this guy compared to a normal helmet is that a normal helmet will have to send itself from stage to waiting room in addition to the discard to salvage any character. He actually discards the character and he needs to send himself from your hand. Now, this might not seem like it really matters that much. From my testing, it is a tad annoying. I would prefer that he gets to discard himself, send himself from the stage to the waiting room like a normal helmet, because now I feel like I kind of just have to hold him into my hand, especially if I'm at level 0. It would be great to attack with him, and then to clean cut him to my backstage and then use this helmet effect the next turn. Because he has to go from hand, I can't do that, which is a real shame because this set has one of the best clean cuts that we have seen in a while, and we're going to talk about it later. It's really not that big of a deal, to be honest. You do need this guy for basically any deck that is running his little sister here, because a lot of her cards do require revealing him as part of the cost to use her effects. In the show, she like looks up to him a lot and she sort of takes care of him a little bit. So it's very flavorful, but it is a cost to think about. I don't think it's really a cost that matters too much. I typically play 3 copies of him in the deck just to make sure I could see him. Yellow is a very strong color in this set. Green is easily the weakest color in the set, but I'd say you could argue that yellow is probably the best color in the set, yellow or blue. But yellow, blue, red, all very solid. Yellow has fantastic level zeros, probably has the best zeros in the set. So you're set up really well color-wise to be playing this combo right from the very beginning. A choice is very much, I think, the way to go with this particular level 3, and you have 2 level 1 choice combos to choose from, one of which is really, really good. And the other one's not terrible. So for anyone who thinks that pay 2 on attack is a little bit of a steep cost, it is a high cost. However, for what it does, I think it's very reasonable. And because you can play a choice and there are 1/0s with soul triggers in the set galore to really maximize just how much you can do with yellow in this set, it becomes very easy to maintain hand without spending a lot of stock, which lets you build the stock you need to do this. Triple copies of this level 3 combo is really not that hard to do. And if you do that and you successfully resolve all 3, you're basically guaranteeing at least 6 damage into your opponent's clock, unless your opponent gets ridiculously lucky with their cancels and they were super compressed and they go into a refresh and they just keep canceling like a god. The first time I played against this, my friend had just gotten his JP playset and he put it together in like 5 minutes or something, and he only managed to get 1 copy of this out onto his board. And he was able to just snipe 3 climaxes with just the 1 Kaju because I just kept canceling on 2. And then sure enough, he triggered and he was swinging direct, and I just ate a 5 because he just sniped 3 with 1 card. It doesn't feel great when your opponent just eats the first 2. I will admit that. But as long as they cancel at least one of the burn 2s, you do really start to feel the value of this card, even if you just stick the second burn 2. It's expensive for what it does. This card really reminds me, for anyone familiar with the Stardust Crusaders JoJo's Premium Booster, there is a level 3 choice combo in that set that is a character named Dio, who at Encore Step, he's a pay 2 ditch 2 in order to put the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck into their clock. Now, in that card specifically, that is not damage. You're just putting cards from their deck into their clock. But the idea, I think, is very, very similar here, where while this doesn't guarantee you're putting 2 cards into their clock, it almost is guaranteeing that you're putting 2 cards into their clock. And if you're not putting 2 cards into their clock with every copy of this, well, you feel pretty strong most of the time, because that just means you got rid of 3 climaxes with a single card. More likely that your swing is going to hit, and at that point you're swinging for at least 3 if you frontaled, or if you're direct, you're swinging for at least 4, maybe 5 depending on your trigger. It just feels very, very strong. This is not the level 3 combo that people really talk about when they talk about this set. We will discuss what that level 3 combo is in a moment, but I think this is a really underrated combo. I think people are sleeping on this a little bit. It's just a very, very fun combo. Yellow puts in so much work in this set that it just feels really great to be playing yellow. It feels really great to be playing a choice. So many good cards at 0, so many good cards at 1 that help really just make this whole thing happen, whether it's directly or indirectly. There's even a card at 2 we'll talk about that's in blue that helps you just get to where you need to be with this card. Very, very explosive. I think it is absolutely worth checking out. I don't think, despite the fact that this is a double rare, I don't think this is going to be an expensive combo. I don't think she is like the most popular character from the show or anything like that, even though she is a enjoyable character for her limited screen time. Just people are mostly focused on the blue level 3 combo we'll discuss. So I think people are sleeping on this combo, and it might be worth picking up and checking out, or if you have access to the simulator, just testing it on there and seeing how it goes, because it absolutely is one of my favorite combos in the set. May not be my favorite, but it's one of my favorites, and I think it definitely has about as much value as the level 3 combo we will discuss next, which will be this Perfect Body Ana, which is kind of a gross name because she's in high school, but whatever. But anyway, this Ana is the card of the set. I would say if you had to pick one card from a set and say which card has people talking, I would say it is undoubtedly this card. This card does something that I'm not sure if we've seen in English in Weiss. I'm not as familiar with the JP side of things. I'm not sure if we've seen this before in JP until the set came out. But either way, it's something we really do not see. It sort of introduces an entirely new mechanic to the game. And you could argue it almost like breaks the rules of the game. Her first effect there, you see it says memory. If this card's in your memory, you do not lose by reaching level 4. You will lose when you reach level 5. This card, people will just say when they refer to Makeine, oh, Makeine is the level 5 deck. What they're referring to right when they say that is this card right here, because this card allows you to hit level 4 and not lose as long as she is face up in your memory, which means that you get an entire extra level's worth of damage that your opponent has to successfully deal to you than they normally would in order to actually win the game. Moving on, her next effect is when she's put into your memory by the effect of any card other than herself, you put her to waiting room, which is important in order to balance this card out. Now let's discuss her actual climax combo and what she does. Her climax is a pants climax, so not a bad trigger. At the end of her attack, if you have the pants climax in your climax area, you choose one of the following effects and perform it. You could pay 5 and then put the top 3 cards of your deck into your clock. And if you do, you send her to memory. Or you can just deal 2 damage to your opponent. There's no cost to that. You just deal 2 damage to your opponent. So you pick one of the others. Pay 5, top 3 cards of deck to clock, send this Perfect Body Ana to your memory. And at that point, you do not lose when you reach level 4, or you deal 2 damage. This card is very, very strong. It is very, very powerful. It's very, very versatile. Pay 5, clock yourself 3 times. Sounds like a heavy cost. The pay 5 is definitely not as big of a cost as it sounds up front, because you only need 8 stock in order to triple this combo if you wanted. Which I think is very, very doable in this set. You need definitely less stock than you need to triple the previous combo, the little sister combo we just looked at. You could still play the level 1 choice combo that we're going to talk about later, which is a very good combo. You still have a lot of ways to build stock in this deck. One of the better ways is with a blue event that we will discuss that just stocks you for free. And it could double stock you for essentially free also. This combo is very versatile because it is defensive as well as offensive. Free burn 2 at end of attack doesn't even require a reverse, doesn't require a discard, doesn't require any stock. It just has to be alive still. Is not bad. Burn 2 by itself is not the craziest thing we've ever seen, but imagine a scenario where you've got 8 stock, you play 3 of this, now you're down to 2 stock. And you swing with your first 2, you get 2 burn 2s out of them. You swing with the third one, now you are at the 5 stock. You can either burn 2 again if your opponent's within kill range and you want to take the chance, or you can just pay the 5, send her to memory, top 3 cards of your deck go to clock, and now you don't lose by reaching level 4, which makes it very versatile depending on the state of the game, how things are going. If you know you have no chance of killing your opponent with a simple burn 2, you just pay the cost and now you get an entire extra level's worth of damage, which is very, very powerful, very, very cheap overall. Just very, very solid combo. This is the one that everyone really talks about when they talk about this set. Something that should be noted with this combo is it says you put the top 3 cards of your deck into your clock. If at the end of her attack you only have 2 cards or 1 card in your deck, you actually cannot use this effect. You need to, even though if you, let's assume that you activate the effect and you try to do it, oh look, you ran out of cards, you only had 1 or 2 cards, you put the first 2 in. even though it doesn't work that way. Just to explain, yes, you would go to a refresh and now you would have new cards in your deck. However, that is different. You need to be able to fully resolve the cost at the time that you are activating the effect. It is okay to activate it when you only have 3 cards in deck, but anything less than that, you will not actually be allowed to activate this effect. Which I think is super niche and is almost never going to come up, but it is something to keep in mind. Now, something that is a more positive reaction to this card that I think is worth noting is that based on how check timings work with this card, let's say you could pay the cost of the effect. Let's say you got 10 cards in your deck. Let's say you are at 3-4. You are able to pay the 5, put the top 2 cards of your deck into your clock. At that point, you will be 3-7, and it's time to level up. Now, when you level up, that is an interrupt type action. So at that point, you've paid the 5, you put the top 3 cards of your deck into your clock. You would then level up. At that point, it would be level 4. However, the game at that point does not check to see if you are level 4. Once you've paid the cost, you finish resolving the effect, and the only thing that's left to resolve the effect is to send this Ana to your memory. At that point, the game checks to see if you are level 4. The game sees that you are level 4. However, it sees that this Ana is now in your memory, and she says you do not lose by being level 4. So, something that is good to know is that you can use this effect to push yourself to level 4, and you will not lose because of it, because of how check timings work. Something that also probably won't come up a ton, but it is something to keep in mind, which makes this card really, really good. Definitely helps you out there with just the way the rules of the game work. Very strong, very versatile again. It's on a pants, so if your other Anas are able to survive, it's not unreasonable to think that you can loop it as long as you triggered a pants climax or you draw the pants climax again. It is free, so you could just get some more burn 2s. There is an interesting level 3 we're going to look at later that was clearly created to pair well with this and deal some burn damage based on the number of characters in your level. Really great card overall, very, very strong. She is the best girl on the show, so that also is a bonus. Really, really great. Definitely a combo that is worth looking at. Competitive wise, I think this is a very solid combo. I think most people who do decide they want to take Makeine to a regional, they're probably going to be playing this, most likely would be my guess. I think that's seen the most success on the JP side of things. I still think the little sister combo is the combo that is better at closing out games, but this one again is very offensive, it's very defensive, because you could, let's say you're in a scenario very similar to the Chica. Let's say you're in a scenario where you either are 1 stock short, let's say, or maybe you think it's not in your best interest to do the pay 5, top 3 cards of deck into clock, send it into memory. Maybe you've got a compressed deck, you got a bunch of climaxes in there. You don't want to be shoving climaxes from your deck into your clock. Maybe you're playing the money counter. Well, at that point, because your combo is stockless, if you just do the burn 2s, you're going to have 3 stock because you attacked 3 times that turn. You could play the money counter if you want. I'm not saying everyone's going to be playing it. I'm not even saying most people are going to be playing it. It is a full field money counter. Not everyone likes that. I think it's fine. It's not the best, but it could be worse. But I think that is just an example of the versatility behind this card. Free burn 2, no reverses, just end of attack. Or go to level 5. Really, really strong. The only real weakness I would say about this deck is really the fact that it doesn't do anything on play. It does not heal. It does not add a card. It doesn't do anything on play. I think that was very clearly just a balancing thing that Bushiroad went for when they were designing this card. It is already unfair enough with what it does, allowing you to get an extra level's worth of damage before losing. So doing anything additional probably would be unfair, and I could see why they wouldn't want to do that. So that is it for the level 3 combos that we'll be looking at. Moving on to the level 1 combos of the set, we are going to get what I think is the worst level 1 combo out of the way, but there is some value to it if you are someone who really likes to gamble. It is this Lemon level 1 combo. She is on a bar. During your turn, she gets 1,000 power. So during your turn, before any other sort of power buffs, she is 5,000 power. When she attacks, if you have the bar climax in your climax area and you have another adolescence character, she gets 1,500 power until end of turn, and you perform the following effects one time each. The first effect is you may put the bottom card of your deck into your waiting room. If that card is an event or an adolescence character, return it to your hand. And the second effect is reveal the top card of your deck. If that card is level 1 or higher, put it into your stock, and if it's level 0, you return it to its original place. Now, this level 1 combo is reminiscent of multiple combos that we have seen in the past, until you realize it's kind of a little bit worse. We have seen usually level 1 combos for the most part for most of modern Weiss history. They will generate you a resource. Typically, that resource is going to be a character. Could be an event, but typically it's going to be a character. Sometimes it's stock, but usually you're going to be salvaging a character, you're going to be searching your deck for a character, you're going to be looking at the top X cards of your deck and grabbing a character, that sort of thing. Some combos will generate you extra stock instead. Now, every once in a while, throughout modern Weiss history, we will see level 1 combos where they will generate you one resource, oftentimes a character, sometimes a stock, as sort of a guaranteed, and then it will have an additional effect where you have the chance to generate an extra resource depending on meeting a certain condition. Typically, that will be the whatever resource wasn't guaranteed from the first part of the effect. So the first part of the effect lets you salvage a character or search your deck for a character. The second thing will be something like reveal the top card of your deck. If it's level 1 or higher, send it to stock. It'll be some sort of optional thing that you can whiff on, whatever the condition might be. So it's something we have seen before. We've seen this effect sort of recently. Gun Gale has a really good level 1 combo that gives you a guaranteed salvage and the chance to blind stock yourself. Yun from Konosuba was very popular back in the day. Gave you a chance to sort of do that as well. The thing here, though, is that you have no guaranteed chance to get any resource whatsoever. It is entirely possible that both of these effects whiff. The first effect, you have to mill the bottom card of your deck, and you only salvage it if it's an event or an adolescence character. So if you mill a climax or something that's not adolescence, which again I don't think is really going to matter, but basically if you mill a climax, nothing happens, and then you reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's not level 1 or higher, it does not go to your stock. So at that point, if both of your conditions fail, well, really just nothing happened, and all you did was mill a climax from the bottom of your deck. So you can with both conditions. If you are someone who likes to gamble, it is very possible to go pretty plus on this. Now, even if you do plus with both of these effects, getting the level 1 or higher stock is pretty nice. You're not blind stocking, so you're not shoving climaxes in there without knowing you're shoving climaxes in there. You know it's going to be whatever level 1 or higher is sent. However, the first effect is not selective at all. You basically just take whatever character or event you mill from the bottom of your deck. Now, there are some decent events in this set. It is pretty nice that this can grab any event that's not limited to a specific event. But in terms of characters, you're basically just taking whatever the bottom of your deck gives you. Now, there is very minor bar support in the set. There is a good 1-0 that on attack gives you some bar support for if you trigger a bar. It also sends itself to the bottom of your deck when it gets reversed. Now, I think that card does swing at like 5 or 6k with a climax, so you kind of need your opponent's board to be able to be bigger so that you can get that reverse on yourself, and that would sort of guarantee that one of your lemons doesn't whiff, because you would just mill the lemon that just got sent there. But it's a lot of setup and requires your opponent to have a bigger board and at least one lane. This combo is great if you really like lemon and you just don't care that you might whiff. It's great if you just like to gamble. It doesn't really feel great if you whiff the mill a character, because now you're bleeding hand. Even if you get the stock, your level 1 combo is supposed to generally start replenishing your hand a little bit and setting you up for later in the game. So this combo can go hard, but it's also really easy for this combo to just whiff completely. And milling a climax from the bottom, and now you're getting one less cancel on that deck. It just doesn't really feel good. And another negative about it is, let's say you don't mill a climax from the bottom of your deck. Let's say you do actually mill a character or an event, and you salvage it. You did actually just move your deck one card closer to a climax from the bottom, which means that maybe now when you go to refresh, you'll have a climax on bottom, which means that that card is going to be most likely left out of your deck when you go to refresh that climax, and now you'll refresh with one less climax in it. It is something to think about. It's something to consider. There is no, other than that 1-0 I discussed briefly, there's really no way to set up the bottom of your deck. You can help mitigate the level 1 or higher stock charging effect by just throwing in a bunch of level 1 or highers. Yellow is great with its level 1s. There are a lot of good level 1s, including lemons at level 1, but they're like in yellow. Green just doesn't have that same level of support. So at level 1, having a sculpt for multiple colors and make sure your level and your clock are set up for multiple colors, it is a lot of setup for something that you still just really can't control what's going to happen with it. Um, it's fine if you really like lemon. I think in terms of combos, this is easily the weakest lemon combo. There is a 2-1 lemon on a bar that basically can come out at level 1, and it sacks the bar climax to look at top 3 and add 3 characters, 3 adolescent characters. It does require a full field, I believe, in order to come out at level 1, which can be problematic at 1, but I think it's a much better combo than this lemon level 1. This, is whatever. I will say the climax on this, I don't have it pictured here, but the climax for this lemon does look very nice. But if you like lemon and you just want to do 8 bar with lemon at 1, lemon at 3, or even the trial deck lemon at 3, it's whatever. I don't think you're really ever going to see much success with this, but I think at a locals level, it's funny. It can be fun, especially if you go into it knowing that it doesn't really matter and you're just playing for the memes. Next up, we have the trial deck level 1 combo, which is this Ana, this losing heroine Ana. During your turn, she gets 3000 power. Her climax combo is when her battle opponent becomes reversed. If you have the climax in your climax area, the climax for this is a pants climax. You perform the following action 2 times. You may put the top card of your deck into your waiting room. If that card is an astounding sum or an adolescence character, return it to your hand. This combo I think is far superior than the lemon we just looked at. Even though this is a trial deck level 1 combo, I think in general this is just a very solid level 1 combo. For a trial deck level 1 combo, I think this is very good. It does require a reverse. However, she is swinging at 7-5 with the climax before any other sort of attack buffs or anything like that. So I don't think at level 1 a reverse is really that hard to achieve with this. Plus she has no cost. You don't have to discard or anything like that to get the effects. You just need the reverse. So it's a very easy way to start plussing with just one card, especially if you can't field multiple copies of it. It does whiff on any event that is not an astounding sum. The astounding sum event is from the trial deck, and it's a very, very good, I should have pictured it here, but we will talk about it later. It's a very, very good 1-0 blue event that says play it out. When you do, pick a character from your waiting room, send it to stock. Then mill the top 3 cards of your deck. If all of them are copies of an Astounding Sum event or Adolescence characters, you can stock another character. So it's a very, very easy way to at least generate 1 stock, and it's a pretty easy way to generate potentially 2 stock for free. It costs nothing to use the card except other than to play it. So you're basically turning 1 hand into 1 stock, and potentially turning that 1 hand into maybe 2 stock. So it's great that this can grab that event. It would be nice if this card grabbed any event like the lemon. There is another level 1 on a combo that we're going to look at that can grab any event. But I don't know, maybe they were trying to balance it, or maybe because it's flavorful to her character for the scene to sort of be grabbing that specific event. Maybe they were just balancing it because she does plus you so much. Either way, I think this is a very, very solid level 1 combo. If you like Ana, if you want to play 8 pants, this will be the only level 1 pants combo. There is a level 0 pants combo that I don't think is really worth looking at, so we're not going to. But I think this combo, very, very solid. The reverse is the worst thing about it, and it's really not that big of a deal. It's very easy to reverse something with 7.5. You get a minor amount of deck speed by milling the two, not the best amount of deck speed, but you can plus very, very easily with this card. Being on pants, it's pretty easy to loop this, so there is a lot to like about this level 1 combo. Next up, we have this Mischievous Smile Kaju. This is the little sister of the main character. She is on a choice climax. Notably, she is a 1-0 with a soul trigger, which is really, really great. This set is chock full of 1-0s with soul triggers. Her climax combo is at the beginning of your Encore step if you have the choice climax. And she's in your center stage, and you have 2 or more other adolescence characters, and there's no character facing her, or the character facing her is reversed. You may search your deck for up to 1 adolescence character, show it to your opponent, shuffle your deck. She also has a resonate effect, which is separate from the climax combo, which is at the beginning of your climax phase. You may pay the cost, which is to reveal 1 copy of her big brother, which is the hand helmet that we talked about earlier. If you reveal him, she gets the following ability until the end of your opponent's next turn. That ability is during your turn, she gets 4,500 power, and during your opponent's turn, she gets 1,500 power. So basically, during your opponent's turn, if you use this resonate effect, she will be 4k on your opponent's turn, and during your turn, she will be, I'm bad at math, she will be 8k with the climax. Now, if you don't have the climax, you can still do the resonate if you want, and she will be 7k without the climax, which isn't terrible. But you do really sort of need, even though you don't need the resonate for the actual climax combo, because she does need a reverse or at least a clear lane, you basically, most of the time, either your opponent's going to have crashed the previous turn, or you will need a reverse, and odds are 35 without the resonate with the climax isn't really going to be enough, except for level 0s. It's not the worst thing to play this. As mentioned, when we are talking about her level 3 combo, a lot of her cards do require revealing this particular Big Brother card. If I'm not mistaken, he might be the only Big Brother card in the set, even though he's the main character. If he has another card, there's probably just one other at most. As usual, the main character guys don't really get any cards in these Weiss sets, but I think that's par for the course. Anyway, this is one of 2 level 1 choice combos on the set. The other one is also a 1-0 with a soul trigger. I think this combo is fine. I think the other combo that we're going to talk about is much better than this. I think there is value to being able to thin out your deck without having to mill any cards. That way you keep any compression you have and you just make yourself more compressed. I think though that is a double-edged sword, because if you just don't have any climaxes in your deck, or you have almost no climaxes in your deck, while this will thin a single card out of your deck without the chance of getting rid of that climax or a couple of climaxes in your deck, it doesn't give you any deck speed whatsoever aside from 1 card, and 1 card deck speed is nothing. That's not going to really help you get out of a bad deck state. So I think the combo is fine. It's definitely not bad. I think though that because there is a 1-0 choice combo aside from this that is better, unless you really like this little sister character or whatever, which is fine, I don't think there's any reason to play this over the other level 1 combo that we're going to discuss. It's still fine on its own. There is value to thinning it out, but that value really comes from things that you can't predict ahead of time. When you start a game of Weiss, before you draw your hand, there is really no way to know what your deck state is going to be like at level 1. Sometimes the game just goes in different directions. Sometimes you're just out too many climaxes too early. Sometimes you just draw too many from your opening hand, or your mulligan, or you trigger too much early, or you cancel too much, and you cancel too much on one, and now you've just got this big fat deck without any climaxes. And this level 1 combo is not going to really do anything to help you get out of those situations. She really only helps you when you are already decently compressed and you don't want to really mess with that. Now she is very selective. That is a positive. Being able to search for a specific level, specific adolescence character, that is good. Um, in case you really want to grab something specific, you don't always see that off of level one combos that have some sort of mill or look at top X sort of effect. So there is value to this. Um, there is just a better level one combo to look at, but overall, not bad. Next up for level 1 combos, we're going to be looking at this Immersed in Scooping Goldfish Chica. She is a level 1 red combo that works on a door climax. If all of your characters are adolescents, she gets 2000 power. That is cross turns, so on your opponent's turn and your turn, she will be 6k as long as pretty much you're playing the game. On our climax combo is when she attacks, if you have the door climax in your climax area and you have another adolescence character, you may pay the cost, which is to discard any card. If you do, you perform the following action 2 times. You mill the top 2 cards of your deck, then you pick a level X or lower adolescence character in your waiting room and return it to hand. X is equal to the total level of the cards put into your waiting room by this effect. This is sort of known as a cigarettes effect. We have seen a cigarettes effect many times. Cigarettes effect is just mill top 2, salvage level X or lower. X is equal to the level of the total level of the milled cards combined. However, this adds an extra element to it where you get to do that twice. Actually, you don't get to, you sort of have to if you want to, which is really the only negative part about this effect. I think cigarettes is a perfectly fine combo. We have seen cigarettes combos add a little bit more to them in the last few years. Typically, they won't let you mill more than the initial 2, but they will have some sort of bonus effects depending on the level of the characters, so the cards that are milled or the character that you salvage off of the effect. This does add an interesting layer where you do get 2 mill twice, so you get more selectivity. Being able to discard anything is nice for when you just want to get rid of characters you really don't want, or you have extra climaxes in your hand and you need to get them out of your hand for your refresh. She is processing 4 cards, 5 cards with the swing. 4 cards is not bad, which is the total number of cards you're milling. It's something that the previous card that we looked at, as well as the lemon level 1 that we looked at, they're not really processing many cards, so they're not giving you much deck speed. This combo is giving you deck speed, which is very, very valuable. And the real issue with this card, and I don't think it's really that big of a deal, I think it's a problem that will come up in some games. I don't think it's a problem that will come up in most games. And that issue is that if you want to use the effect at all, you must do the mill 2 twice. I think which it's problematic because if maybe your deck is a certain way where you don't want to do the mill 2 twice. Maybe you really just would rather do the mill 2 once, for example. I think what would have made this card better is if it was something like on attack, you may do the cigarettes effect, so you mill 2, salvage level X, and if you want, you can discard a card to basically do the effect again. Which would be pretty much how it's printed here, except it has the optional for the second mill. This is just a forced, you must do the mill 2 twice if you want to use the effect at all. Sometimes your deck will be in a certain way where you kind of just don't want to do that. If you're close to a refresh, sometimes it could be that if your compression is pretty decent, maybe you did 2 or 3 of this combo and you did a couple of the mill 2 twices already. Now you're doing the third one and you realize, wow, I kind of didn't really mill any climaxes. I got a lot left in my deck. I'd rather not mill another 4 because then I might mill more. I might mill climaxes, and I don't want to do that. Again, it's really not that big of a deal most of the time. I don't think it should be that much of an issue. I do like this combo a lot overall. I think 8 door is a very solid list to look at. There is door support in this set that we're going to look at. So I think all of that sort of makes up for the fact that this is not very modular. Very often with Weiss, especially in the last few years, we've seen effects that really give you a lot of control over how you use them. This one really takes that away a bit. Maybe that was an oversight, maybe it was a balancing thing in light of some of the door support that is in the set, and the fact that it is still a very solid effect. It Mildew twice and Salvage twice, very, very strong. Very good. Doesn't need a reverse or anything like that. 6k cross turn is a very respectable power line cross turn for your level 1 combo. I think that is a benefit to this as well. And Door is a good trigger, and red is a good color in this set. So if you like Chica, or if you like Door, or if you like Mill 2, especially Mill 2 twice, I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with this combo. I'm definitely going to be building a Door, and I think it's a very, very solid level 1 combo. Next up, we have my favorite level 1 combo in the set. It's this Gluttonous Ghost Ana. She is called that because something in the show that she does a lot, aside from being like absolutely rejected by the guy she likes and being really sad about it, is she does not stop eating. She is constantly eating. She is constantly going into debt because she's borrowing money so she could get more food. So it's pretty flavorful here that she is gluttonous and she's got food because she just keeps eating food. Anyway, she is a 1-0 with a soul trigger on a choice climax. Very, very, very strong. That is, again, that's a profile that Bushiroad has been sort of pushing in the last couple of years or so. And it's very, very good. Her effect is during your turn, if you have 2 or more other Adolescence characters, she gets 4,000 power. So during your turn, as long as you meet that condition, she will be 7k before climax and before any other buffs. And her actual climax combo is when she attacks, if you have the choice climax as well as 2 other Adolescence characters on your stage, look at up to X cards from the top of your deck, choose up to 1 event or Adolescence character from among them, reveal it to your opponent, put it to your hand, the rest go to waiting room. X is equal to the number of Adolescence characters in your backstage plus 3. This effect, I think, is very, very strong. Being able to grab an event or an Adolescence character is good. She is not selective as to which event she grabs. Grabbing any event is very good. Also, she is at worst if you have no characters in your backstage. So you would have 0 characters in your backstage. She looks at X cards plus 3, and X is equal to the number of characters in the backstage plus 3. So if you have 0, she will look at up to 3 cards from the top of your deck. If you have 1 character in your backstage, she'll look at 4. And if you have 2 characters in your backstage, she will look at up to 5. Being at worst a look at top 3 is not the greatest, but it's still fine considering she can grab pretty much anything that's not a climax in your deck, which is really, really great. Most of the time, you're going to have at least 1 in your backstage, so she will turn into a pretty standard top 4 check, which is something we've seen forever, and it works because it works. There's nothing wrong with top 4 check, especially when she, again, can grab you any event. Which most of these combos cannot do. They will typically just grab a character when they're top 4 checks. And then if you have 2 characters, she'll look at up to 5, which is a good amount of deck speed. Look at top 4 is already a solid amount of deck speed. Top 5 is sort of just a bonus. It's pretty easy to meet that double backstage requirement if you really want to maximize the value of the mill with this card, because you have some really good plussing level 0s in the set. It's a really, really great card. Yellow, I think, is really where you want to be with your level 1 game. This combo is just really strong. Add soul triggers to the deck, always a good thing. You're applying extra damage. You can grab it back if you trigger a choice, which is really, really good. There are multiple good yellow level 1 cards that just are really great to play alongside this. So if you only get 1 or 2 copies of this, if you don't tri-field it, you still have really good options in yellow. I think the level 1 game in this set, yellow easily takes it away as the best level 1 color in this set. Some really, really good options, some really good yellows with the soul trigger at 1. They really were pushing that in this set a lot more than they have for other sets, which I don't mind because Ana's my favorite character. I think this combo is great, super versatile. Just grabbing the events or the characters, I think, is just so... It may not sound like the strongest. Most level 1 combos that have this, they just don't grab events. Or if they do look at top 4, they only grab events. They don't really give you that level of control to be able to pick so well. And For a lot of sets, the events are often not the greatest. However, there are some very solid events in this set. There are multiple good events in this set that aren't necessarily required to play, but they're really, really strong, especially if you're looking to do a certain type of thing depending on the event. Not just the money counter, there are some good events at level 1, like the Astounding Sum event that we talked when looking at the trial deck combo, which basically just gives you some free stock. But there are other events worth playing in addition to that, and the money counter. There's the lemon we looked at. There's another level 1 event that we're going to look at later that's basically a top 4 check, but it's still very solid. A lot of versatility with this card. I think this existing 1-0 with the Soul Trigger, it makes the 8 choice Kaju deck just work so well. This combo is so good. It doesn't even matter if you're not playing that. You could really just slap this into any sort of Makeine deck, I would say. Yellow and green don't always mix well color wise, so if you wanted to play the level 3 bar combo, I still think that this is perfectly fine because you're playing this at 1. You're mostly going to be playing yellow level zeros because there are so many good ones in this set. That gives you time to set up for green at level 3, but because this is a choice, it might also help you meet that stock requirement, that very, very high stock requirement that the level 3 lemon mocha combo we looked at has. Um, which I think is a good thing to consider if you really want to play that package and you don't mind not playing 8 bar. You don't often see choice bar as a thing, but I think this combo is so strong it really makes up for that. But this is good really with anything. You want to do 8 choice, and that could be with the lemon trial deck level 3 combo we looked at, or the little sister combo. You want to do choice pants with the level 5 on a combo that we looked at that lets you get to level 5 until you die, before you die. Just this combo is really, really strong. I really enjoy testing it. Really, really great overall. I think the level 1 combos in this set are very, very good overall. I think the only real bad one is that lemon we looked at, which is unfortunate. I think that lemon was so close to being a decent bar combo. Unless both of the effects off that lemon were guaranteed, I don't think it was ever going to be a great combo, but I think it absolutely would have been a very serviceable combo. I think they were so close. All they had to do was make it more like the Gun Gale set 2 combo we saw very recently, which was also on a bar, and the combo would have been so much better. But aside from that, I think the level 1 combos in this set are very, they're either good to great, and that being the only bad option. And there's a lot that are closer to great. So I think in terms of level 1 combos, this set really, really just did a great job and knew what it was doing. Moving on to the level zeros of the set, Makeine is a set with some really, really great zeros in it. There are some really cool profiles. There's a lot to like about it. I think it's one of the stronger level zero lineups that we've seen in a while. Um, Definitely better than a recent set like Girls Band Cry, which had maybe 2 really good level zeros, and then the rest were mid at best. Dan, came out a couple weeks ago. That had some really decent level zeros that I think people sort of were sleeping on when the set first came out in JP. But I think this is a set that is a bit more obvious with how good some of its level zeros are. It has a lot of consistency to its level zero game. Most of the colors that they picked for the cards are very good and support certain climax combos, especially at level 3. But there's just a lot to like. There are some really good cards that are just so versatile. You will slap them into really any Makeine deck, no matter what combos you're playing, no matter what colors you're playing. Just very, very strong. To start, we're going to talk about this Proud Runner Lemon. She is a fantastic card. She is a Ricky. However, she's better than a normal Ricky. She is on play. You could pay 1, put the top card of your deck into your clock. If you do, you can search your deck for up to 1 adolescence character, reveal it to your opponent, put it to your hand, shuffle your deck. So she is a Ricky. However, unlike most on-play search Rickies, which only search for level 1 or lower characters, she searches your deck for absolutely any character you feel like grabbing. This gives her an immense amount of value throughout the entire course of the game. We have seen salvage Rickies be able to salvage any character that they want, regardless of level. I cannot remember the last time we got an English on play search your deck for any traded character Ricky, regardless of level. I think that is so strong. A lot of the time, Rickies are always good to have, even if they're the traditional level 1 or lower search Rickies. And they're not necessarily bad the later the game goes, but oftentimes as you get past level 1, you start using them a little bit less. This lemon, however, is something that you could use throughout the course of the game to just grab whatever specific piece you need at whatever level you currently are. Notably, probably the biggest value with her is that she can grab your level 3 pieces, which is really, really strong. It's a very, very just versatile card. One of the best rookies I think we've seen in a while. She does have a second effect, which is during her battle, when the damage you receive is not canceled, she gets 1500 power until end of turn. This effect won't really matter too much most of the time once you start getting past level 0. However, at level 0, it does make her pretty formidable. Kind of like with her level 1 combo, it's kind of like a fun little if you want to gamble sort of effect, except this time rather than like with the level 1 combo where you, the player, are the one gambling. It's more like your opponent is going to be gambling because let's say that they have a levels, you play her out, they play out a 0 that has 2000 power. And they are going up against this lemon. Now the lemon is only 1500, but she could go up to 1500 if you do not cancel. Your opponent has to make the decision. Well, if they do cancel, my character will be bigger because the lemon won't get the power boost. But if they don't cancel, then the lemon is going to go to 3k. So if I frontal, I am actually going to lose that battle. So maybe to play it safe, I'm just going to side this lemon. In instances like that, gives you a lot of value because your opponent might just side needlessly. Maybe you do cancel and then she wouldn't have gotten the power, but it does make your opponent think a bit more than I think they normally would have to. I think it's kind of funny that she's just not like a 3k all the time or something. I think giving her the chance to get up to 15, and honestly, odds are she probably isn't going to be canceling during her battle anyway. Let's be real, especially at 0 and most of the time we're only 24-1. There's a good chance she doesn't cancel, at least, even though, of course you like canceling. I think it's just a really funny card, that second effect. I think the first effect, if she only had that first effect, that Search Ricky for any level, I think you'd be playing this as a 4 of in every single Makeine deck, to be honest. It's just that good. That second effect just does add some value to it, especially if you're sort of forced to throw her out going first. Maybe you just don't have any other better zeros to throw. It could very easily, depending on your opponent's thinking, just give you extra advantage by making your opponent feel like they should just side it. So now you don't have to play an additional character the next turn. Either way, regardless of what happens with that second effect, first effect is unbelievably strong. One of the best rookies that we have gotten in a while. It's a 4 of in every Makeine deck. I absolutely love it if you're a Lemon fan, which Lemon is not necessarily my favorite girl, even though I do like her. But if you're a fan of Lemon, they gave Lemon one of the best cards in this set. Next up, we have another card that is a profile that we have seen many times before. However, it has just enough going for it that it makes it probably one of the best versions of this profile we have seen in a while. We have this Tap Water Research Chica. Chica being another one of the losing heroines who just gets her heart broken all the time. If all of your characters are adolescents, doesn't say all of your other characters, so it can just include herself if she's the only character on your stage. She gets 1000 power. It's not during your turn. It is cross turn. So as long as you got adolescent characters, she is 3500 all the time. If you do not have another adolescence character, she cannot stand during your stand phase. Might sound harsh, but it's pretty easy to meet that because she is a clean cut. So for anyone who doesn't know that term, clean cut is a term that refers to a character who, when its battle opponent becomes reverse, you pick one of your other characters, you rest it, move it to an open position of your backstage. So this is a 3500 cross turn clean cut that does technically have a drawback because it might not be able to stand the next turn. But because she is a clean cut, it is really easy to pretty much guarantee that you're going to have a character on your backstage, since that's what clean cuts do. And even if she's still 3500, just cross turn, a lot of the time, maybe not as much in the last year or so, but before the last year, it was very, very, very common for many sets to be running basically 3500 beaters as a good solid plussing level 0 option. Usually those 3500 beaters would be runners. So they can move to another position of the stage, either an open position of your center stage with either a character facing it, or just any position depending on level 0. Oftentimes they would be 3500, sometimes 3k, but this may not run, but it does take that 3500 beater slot while giving you a lot of value with being the clean cut. Typically, clean cuts will very often, a very standard profile we see is they are 2k on your turn, 2k all the time, but on your turn they get an extra 1000. So 2k on your opponents, 3k on your turn. Sometimes we do see secondary effects on clean cuts that sacrifice power, which is kind of counterintuitive when you're a clean cut that needs a reverse, so they'll be like even weaker than 3k. But typically they max out at 3k before any buffs that another character might give them. Being 3500 power is very, very strong. This is something that pops up in many Makeine lists that I've seen. I throw it as a 4 of in every one of my decks. It is yellow. Yellow again is a very good color in this set. Just like the lemon, yellow gets really good support in this set. I think this should honestly just be a 4 of in every deck. It's a really great plussing 0. Good card overall. Next up, we have this Say Anna. This is a very standard card, doesn't do anything flashy. She is a Rico. For anyone who doesn't know what that term means, it refers to a character who, when you place it on stage from your hand, you may discard any card from your hand. If you do, reveal the top card of your deck, then salvage a level X or lower character from your waiting room. X is equal to the level of the character revealed, of the card revealed from the top of your deck. Ricos are fantastic. I think every single set, honestly, every modern Weiss set should have a level 0 Rico that is not trait locked or character name locked. I think they're just a very good profile. They are stockless, costless, hand filtering. They're a great way to trade cards you cannot play or don't want to play or have too many of. You can trade them for just brainstorms or attackers or whatever you might need. It's always great if you reveal level 3s because then you can pretty much grab any character in your waiting room. But there is nothing wrong with ditching climaxes you don't need and just grabbing a 0 so you could just attack, get an extra attack in. Just great way to filter cards from your hand that you do not want. Grab cards that are valuable throughout the whole course of the game, like a Brainstorm, like a Ricky. Maybe even grab the clean cut, which is valuable early on. Grab your climax swapper, whatever it is. Sometimes you will high roll and you'll just get level 1s, 2, and 3s revealed. Very often, I guess not as much recently, but historically we have seen Ricos have some sort of good secondary effect, oftentimes at the cost of power. Because this Ana is 1000 power, they did not give her a second effect. Which I think is fine. Honestly, I love Ricos. It's one of my favorite profiles in the game. I don't care if they do anything else that's good. It's always great when they do. However, I would play it, and I do play them, even if they don't have any other effects tied to them. You play them just because of how easy it is to swap dead cards you don't want for just something you might need. Especially level 0s, it's always great to be able to grab certain level 0 pieces. So, not the most extraordinary effect. I think it's just worth mentioning because it's always great when a set has it. It's also a rare in this set, so it's really easy to get. It's not hard to get at all. It has this beautiful artwork too for anyone who's a fan of the character. Next up, we have this Die Hard Brother Devotee Kaju. This is the little sister of the main character. She is what is often referred to as the origami double drop searcher. Origami being from Data Live. In set 2, got a card like this. And we see it every once in a while. Ayakashi Triangle got it, for example. We don't see it in every set. I do wish we saw it more. I know we got it in the JoJo Stardust Crusader set, but if it's always nice when a set has it. If not every set gets it. It's not necessarily infrequent, but it's not frequent. We are seeing it more and more though. I do hope, like a Rico, we sort of just start seeing this kind of profile be something that we get as a standard card in all sets. What this card does is during the turn that it's placed on stage from your hand, when she attacks, you may pay the cost, which is pay a stock and discard 2 cards from your hand. Search your deck for up to 2 Adolescence characters, reveal them to your opponent, add them to your hand, and shuffle your deck. This card is a really great way to get highly selective deck searching. This card has multiple functions. Because it's on attack, you are able to, first of all, she is basically paying one stock to get two very selective cards, which is really, really great. You know, as great as the Ricky is, the Ricky's only grabbing you one specific character. This will grab you two specific characters as long as they're in your deck, which is really, really nice. So that's a good benefit. Another good benefit is that because it is on attack, she's really great for helping keep your stock clean. So you don't attack with her first. You attack with something else. Maybe you just trigger a regular character you don't care about. Now you attack with your second lane. Maybe that lane triggers a climax. You resolve the climax effect, you resolve the attack. Now you move on to this Kaju. Well, now as she attacks, she can now pay out the climax that you just triggered. This helps keep your stock clean in terms of climaxes, gets them out of there from when you trigger them during the attack phase. It also gives you a little bit of deck thinning. So it is, I always like attacking with her last, unless I trigger a climax on my first swing, then I'll attack with her second. You get that little bit of deck thinning right before you're about to end your turn and pass it back to your opponent. Highly selective. It's good throughout the course of the game, not just at level 0, because you are not level locked, so you can grab any adolescence characters. So sometimes you do want more than just your level 1 combo. You might want level 2s or 3s, especially your level 3 combo pieces. This card feels really great at the very beginning of the game, but it does have value throughout the course of the game. It feels really great, even if it's still earlier, but you hit a refresh and now you've got all the characters you might want to search back into your deck. Really great card overall. Many of this sort of profile do not have a second effect. However, this one does have a second effect, and that effect is, like the other Kaju characters that we have looked at so far, you may reveal that her big brother card, the one we've looked at a couple times already, at the beginning of a climax phase, you may resonate with that card. If you do, she gets +1 soul until end of turn. I think that is perfectly fair. That effect is not tied to the double drop search at all. It is a standalone effect. I think if you are playing the little sister deck without the level 1 or the level 3 Kaju combo, you're playing that guy anyway. However, you do not need him in order to do the double drop search, which is arguably really the only reason why you would play this card. However, that second effect I think is a really, really nice bonus. I think the +1 soul is, you do it for free as long as you reveal the card. You're not paying hand, you're not paying stock. So you're most likely just, if you're playing those versions of the deck, you're playing a card. This card's cost requires a card you're playing anyway, and even if you don't have it, you still get to do the main search effect, which is really why you're playing it. But the +1 soul is always nice. Can help set up side attacks, can help push soul if your opponent's out climaxes. It will come up in some games, but you don't even need to be playing that hand helmet anyway. Just really great card to throw in absolutely any sort of Makeine deck. Next up, we have a very standard card from the trial deck. She is a Ana that is a blue level 0 that is a climax swapper. So on play, discard a climax, pay a stock, pick a climax in your waiting room, add it to hand. She's also a level 0 bottom decker. So when she becomes reverse, if her battle opponent is level 0 or lower, you may put that character on the bottom of your opponent's deck. We have started seeing this sort of profile on a lot of trial deck cards recently. Frieren had this exact effect printed before. Dan recently got this, except it was in red. And instead of sending it to bottom deck, I think it just reverses the opponent's character, as red reversers often do. So it seems like Bushiroad has lately just really started pushing the climax swappers of choice for a particular set they've been shoving them into the trial deck, while also stapling some sort of level 0 removal effect to them. I think it's always great when your climax swapper has a secondary effect. You would be playing a climax swapper just because it's a climax swapper, and it's almost mandatory to be playing a climax swapper these days. So the fact that it does have a good secondary effect staple to it is not bad. It's a solid card overall. It's just nice that it has it. Definitely something you want to be playing at least one copy of, maybe two, if you really, or climaxes are that important to you, or if you just want a solid removal option at level 0. Next up, we have this little sister connected by fate Kaju. This card is a good level 0, so I'm going to get that out of the way. It's a good card. However, this card is a card that is very much built for standby, which even though you don't need to be playing standby to use this card at all, it's just very synergistic with standby. Unfortunately, standby is probably the worst part about this deck because standby is practically non-existent, and what is existent with standby is not particularly good in this set. However, the card still is very good on its own if you are someone that values the type of filtering that this card allows. When you place her on stage from hand, you can reveal the top card of your deck. If that card is an Adolescence character, put it into your hand, choose one card in your hand and put it to a waiting room. And her other effect is once she's placed on stage from hand, you may discard a character. If you do, draw a card. So she potentially cycles through 2 cards from the top of your deck. Very strong. She could dig you closer to cards you need, digs you 2 cards closer, can turn her to a climax, so she could turn a 4-card brainstorm into a 6-card brainstorm. Pretty much just a good way to draw 2 cards if you really need it. The reason why this sort of profile is very synergistic with standby is standby often wants to get these high-level characters out of your hand and into your waiting room, so you can either play standby climaxes or trigger standby climaxes and get those higher-level characters from your waiting room onto your stage for free without having to pay stock or anything like that. So this effect is a good way normally to get 2 characters that you don't want and want in your waiting room out of your hand while still digging through your deck a little bit and drawing cards, potentially drawing climaxes you might need. Or whatever it is. So it's a card that I don't really see a lot of play. I don't see being played a lot in my Makeine decks. It is nice that the set does have it. It's still a good card. It's something that maybe could get more value if we ever get a set 2. It's perfectly fine on its own, though. A lot of people do like playing, even if it's a one-of, just some sort of draw card. That way they do have some draw option in their deck, which is particularly useful if, let's say, they use the Honor Rico effect, and they maybe reveal a climax from top of deck that they need. Now they could grab this Kaju back with it, and they could use its effect to draw a card. That way they could draw the climax that they need. It can come up. It's not a bad card to play as a one-of, and it's nice that the set has it. Double drawing is always nice off of a single card. Next up, we have some of the brainstorms, if not all of the brainstorms on the set. We have some good options for brainstorms in this set. Starting from the left, we have the Literature Club Girl Chica. She is a pay to rest herself. If you do, put the top card of your clock into your waiting room. She is also a pay 1 rest herself. Flip over the top 4 cards of your deck and put them into your waiting room. For each climax revealed, salvage a character. This is 2 really good effects stapled onto 1 card. Being a salvage brainstorm is already good. Having that secondary effect is very strong. It's particularly strong that they gave it to a red Chica, because pay 2 might sound like a lot. However, if you remember from the level 3 combos we spoke about, Chica's level 3 combo is incredibly stock light, so you don't need that much stock going into it. So there is a lot of value with playing this brainstorm in particular in that door build, because you can start healing as early as level 0 if you really want to, and pay 2 doesn't matter as much in that particular deck, just because it's so resource light at the end, especially with stock. So there is a lot of benefit to playing this if you just want to be healing a lot, because you really don't need that much stock to get things going. I do not think that this Chica is the brainstorm of choice for this set, but I think that it absolutely is a very good brainstorm. Our Ferretta has this exact brainstorm except in yellow, and I have used that a whole bunch. It's a fantastic brainstorm. I absolutely love doing it. We do see pretty often, not every set, but we see it often enough where we will get a level 0 that is a pay 2 rest itself heal 1. However, it's really, really rare that its second effect is anything that's really that good. Like, for example, 7 Deadly Sins has that effect on, I think it's a promo Elizabeth, but its secondary effect, I think, is just like Global 500. It's not really anything good. So it makes it kind of tough to justify the deck slots for that card. However, when it's stapled to a really, really good effect you'd want to be playing anyway, like a brainstorm, especially a salvage brainstorm, which generally is the better type of brainstorm, it's just really, really great, has a lot of versatility. So it's a very, very good option to have if you just want to do mono red, or even if you're not playing the level 3 door combo, you just like having the option to heal with your brainstorms, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Very, very good brainstorm. Very often we see with sets that there will only be one salvage brainstorm in a particular set. There might also be a search brainstorm or a top check 3 brainstorm or a draw brainstorm. Like trial decks always have a draw brainstorm. Sometimes they have a draw 2 ditch 1 brainstorm. Um, but it's rare that we get two salvage brainstorms in a single set at the same time. This set does have two salvage brainstorms, which is really, really great. And I think that was pretty purposefully done for the color because red really works well with this card. Very solid brainstorm overall. The next brainstorm we're going to look at is this Soaring Appetite Ana. Just like with her Gluttonous Ghost level 1 combo, she is eating again because she's just always eating. And it's a very iconic image from the show where she's kind of just always on these steps talking with the main character, whatever his name is, I always forget. And she's always just shoving food into her mouth. She's a very funny character. But this is probably the brainstorm that I think most people are going to gravitate towards. Not that the one we just looked at is bad at all. It's a very good brainstorm. I really like the brainstorm a lot. But this brainstorm is just a very, very good brainstorm. Her first effect, she's just a salvage brainstorm, just like the other. Just rest yourself, pay 1, mill 4 for every climax salvage a character, which is perfectly good on its own. Her first effect, however, is when your other character becomes reversed, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. This effect can stack, so if you have multiple copies, you can, if one of your other characters that isn't the brainstorm gets reversed, you can effectively draw 2, ditch 2. It's really good hand filtering. It gives you a little bit of deck speed. It is cross turn, so it's not just your turn. It may only be once per turn, but it's once per copy. And being able to do it on your turn or your opponent's turn is always nice. Just in case maybe you're out climaxes and your opponent gets a reverse and you just need to dig a little bit closer to a refresh. Every little bit helps sometimes. It's also a really, really great way where if you have too many climaxes in hand and maybe you don't really have a way to get rid of them, it's a way to where you can either force a reverse, or if you were going to get reversed regardless, it's a good way to just draw another card from your deck, purely because you actually care more about the discard because you want to get those extra climaxes out of your hand. And maybe you do draw something good out of it. I've played enough in the simulator with this, and I'll be playing in real life. My cards are on the way, where sometimes you just really high roll and you just draw into the exact climax that you needed, where you don't need to get rid of climaxes. You actually need to dig closer to a climax, specifically to draw a climax. And sometimes you just draw the climax that you need. Sometimes you just don't even care about what you draw or what you discard. You just need to get one card closer to a climax. Now, sometimes you will use the effect and you will not want to see a climax, but you will see it anyway. It's always a risk you take. But I think it's a really great card overall. It's a double rare in the set. It also has an SR. It's one of the 3 secret rares in the set. Great art, really great effect. I really like this brainstorm a lot. I think it's not explosive in terms of power or what its secondary effect does or anything like that, but I think it is a very, very strong brainstorm that feels really good when you're playing it. I'm sure that most people who are watching, even if you don't think it's that amazing, you probably don't think it's bad, its secondary effect. But in practice, I could say that it does overall add a lot more value than I initially thought it would have. It's a really great brainstorm that you might just be playing anyway because it's a blue salvage brainstorm, which is nice. Very, very good card overall. The next brainstorm we're going to look at, it features this lemon along with a couple other characters on there. The 3 of them are sort of in this, can't really say love triangle because Lemon's pretty much just shut out immediately, but I guess she probably thinks of herself as being in a love triangle. Not that that's relevant to the actual card itself, but moving on. She is a Lemon brainstorm where she is a pay 1, rest herself. For every climax, search your deck for a character, so she is a search brainstorm. However, she also has another effect where when she becomes reversed, if her battle opponent is level 0 or lower, you may put the top card of your opponent's clock into their waiting room. If you do, put that character into your opponent's clock. Now, generally, people, for the most part, will say that a salvage brainstorm is better than a search brainstorm. In most cases, I will agree. The only time a search brainstorm is better is when you have 4 cards left in your deck and there's a climax there and you're going to refresh when you use the brainstorm. That's really the only time that a search brainstorm generally feels better. Not that I have anything against search brainstorms. Now, I can see people dismissing the first effect, her whole reverse send the character to clock, do a little clock swap thing, because it's kind of counterintuitive that your brainstorm should be doing battle, because your brainstorm ideally is something that you put into your back stage as early as possible and you just leave it there throughout the course of the game. So it can seem counterintuitive. However, green is easily the weakest color in the set. You don't have a ton of incentive outside of just liking lemon, or if you're like a degenerate gambler wanting to just play like mono green. If you really like that mummy level 1 lemon combo, though there is the level 2 lemon combo you could play instead, I guess, but neither one is a great option. But I think this is really decent green fix. I don't think the first effect is really bad, despite the fact that it seems counterintuitive. First of all, you have the 3500 clean cut that we discussed, so it's really easy to get this character reversed, send your opponent's character to clock, and then you clean cut with the clean cut, and you rest this, and then send it to your back row where it wants to be. It's a really great way, even if it's just a one time, to get some value out of it. It's always really nice when you have a card in your deck that doesn't feel shoved into your deck. That way you don't waste deck slots, but cards that help you circumvent your opponent's characters going to the waiting room. So if your opponent has any sort of level 0 that has an effect that when it hits waiting room, do something beneficial to your opponent. This is a really great way to deny it. We see it pretty often in something like Hololive, which has the Aqua Ricky, where when it hits the waiting room from the stage, you could pay 1, clock yourself, look at top 2, add any characters. This totally denies that. Because it sends it to clock, so it misses the effect. We have Bane Dream, where they have the level 0 that when it hits waiting room, you can look at top 4 and add a character. It helps deny that. It's always really great to just have that option to deny your opponent effects that they might genuinely be relying on for various reasons. So I think while this card is not going to see a ton of play outside of green decks or people who just like lemon or that sort of thing, I actually think this card is pretty cool that they stapled both of these effects to it. It makes it feel less bad that you're playing multiple copies of it. Very often, most people, I think on average, are going to be playing 3 copies of their brainstorm of choice anyway. Some people will up that to 4, and some people will lower that to 2. It depends on the deck, it depends on the brainstorm, and it depends on the player. But I think 3 is a good average number of brainstorms that people will play in a deck. This is a brainstorm that doesn't feel bad playing at 3, and I don't think you feel bad about playing it at 4. Because of that first effect does make it good as a level 0 card that just deals with pretty much any level 0 your opponent can throw out. Funny interaction, even if it's an interaction that's not going to happen a lot. This is a really easy way for this deck to have a built-in answer to Ayakashi with the level 0 Suzus the giant level 3 Suzus that become level 0 when they're on the stage. It just deals with those cards, which is niche, but it does come up. It's just a nice secondary effect to have. I, again, don't think it'll see much play over the Ana. I think that will easily make up the majority of brainstorm usage for any deck in this set, and then I think it will be the Chica, and then I think maybe it'll be this. But I think it's a nice option to have, and I think that it's definitely more versatile and powerful than it seems, even if it seems counterintuitive. Next up for brainstorms, we have this Jumping to Conclusions Kaju. We have seen this sort of. Her first effect we have seen a lot recently, actually, this sort of effect, where when your climax triggers, look at the top card of your deck, put it on the top of your deck or into your waiting room, choose one of your characters, and it gets 1500 power until end of turn. Bushiroad has been printing that profile, stapled to brainstorms more often recently. I think it's not bad whatsoever. I think it's very, very solid. It's nice to be able to get top deck knowledge, and maybe if you see another climax, you could keep it out of your stock. The power boost is nice. It's pretty solid secondary effect to a brainstorm. Now, its actual brainstorm is not bad. It just has a bit more of a condition than any other brainstorm on this list and any brainstorm in general. It is a pay 1 rest itself, but it also needs to reveal, yet again, that level 0 Big Brother hand helmet that we have looked at with every single Kaju card that we have talked about with any single Kaju card. You need to reveal that in your hand to actually pay the cost for the brainstorm. Now, let's say you've got it in your hand and you pay the one and you rest it. You mill the top 4 cards of your deck. For each climax among them, you look at the top 3 cards, up to 3 cards from the top of your deck. Add any card to your hand and put the rest to waiting room. There is nothing wrong with the top check 3 brainstorm. I love top check 3 brainstorms. They are really great for grabbing climaxes. They give you some really good deck speed. If you mill more than 1 climax, you are cycling through so many cards from top of deck because it's up to 3 for each climax milled. Really, really strong. My one little caveat is I kind of don't like that it is stapled to the Big Brother helmet. You would again be playing that card regardless. Some people might be playing that helmet even if they are not playing any of the younger sister cards, because it is still a helmet, even if it's a hand helmet, and that's not bad. And giving power is not the worst secondary effect a helmet can have. But needing it stapled to your brainstorm just to use your brainstorm is kind of annoying. There are going to be games where you really need to brainstorm and you just don't have that card yet. You're at 0 and maybe you need to brainstorm and you haven't had time to sculpt for it. Maybe you just need to play an attacker and you don't quite have a way to, and you need to play it's just too much setup for a brainstorm. Brainstorm should not be this complicated. I think they were really just going for flavor. You could argue that they were trying to balance the first effect with the brainstorm effect, because I believe so far, at least in English, we've only seen that first effect stapled to salvage brainstorms and not top check 3 brainstorms. I don't think they were going for a balancing thing, because I don't think that first effect, while good, is overwhelmingly powerful. I think they were really just going for the flavor of the whole little sister always needs her big brother sort of thing for the show, which is fine. I don't mind when Bushy is flavorful, but I don't know. It's just kind of annoying. It is. I would throw a single copy of this into a deck alongside maybe the Ana Brainstorms if I'm playing 3 copies of Ana, just one of this, because it's always nice to have a top check 3 option. But having to have it stapled to that sort of condition, even if it is really, you don't have to discard it or anything like that, it's kind of annoying. It's fine when it works. There's nothing wrong with it, but sometimes it's just not going to work out. And when it doesn't work out, it feels really useless when your brainstorm can't brainstorm. Next up, we have a few cards that aren't as flashy, but I think they are worth looking at. First up, we have this red level 0. Low energy nurse gal Yumeko. She's actually my second favorite character in the show. She's a very, very minor character, but she's absolutely hilarious. Her first effect is you can't play events or backup from your hand. So anyone that is running level 0 events, which I'm not sure they exist, and the 3 decks in English existence that have level 0 backups, you can't use those. I guess you also can't play those backups or events when you get to higher levels, but it's really it's a non-condition condition. They just threw it in there to balance the fact that it's 3,500 all the time. Her second effect is at the beginning of your opponent's attack phase, you may move her to an open position of your center stage with a character facing her. So she is a runner, but 3,500 all the time. Very solid level 0. She's just a rare, so she should be very cheap for anyone who's not picking up a whole playset. Really good card, gives you a little bit of red fix. Mentioned earlier in the video about how, while not as common anymore, very often people used to just throw 4 copies of 3,500 runners into their decks as a good plussing level 0. This is very reminiscent of that. I do think it shows how much times have changed, that now we are down to a profile that might have been a double rare back in the day. This is now just a rare. I don't mind that at all. I think the art's still nice, but I think the card is still good. If you just need some red fix or you just want a really solid level 0. She doesn't do anything else, but I still think there's a lot of value to this card, and it's a good card overall, and I definitely enjoy it, and I would throw this into primarily the 8-door deck, just because she's a good level 0 red to level, but she does have a lot of value at 0. Next up, we have this Homewrecker Karen, who is a yellow level 0. If your hand has 5 or more cards, she gets 2000 power, so as long as you meet that condition, she is 35 all the time. Her other effect is when she's placed on stage from hand, you may pay 1, discard a card. If you do, search your deck for an adolescence character. So she does have the potential to be 3500 all the time, which is nice, and she is a drop searcher, so playing multiple copies of her, for it does not feel bad when you're just trying to go for a powerful level 0, or when you just need drop searchers. Having that combination of effects is pretty decent. So I think it's a very solid card overall. It's not going to see play in every single list, but I think it will pop up. It's something where even if you just play it as a one-of because it's a drop searcher, and it's not bad to be playing drop searchers, the fact that like if you go first and this is like the best card you have, just to throw one character out and she'll be 35, it's definitely not bad. Next up, we have this Kaju. This Kaju might be one of the few Kajus in the set that does not require her big brother to actually use her, which is nice for a change. When she's placed on stage from hand, if you have another character, she gets 2000 power until end of turn, so she will be 4k. When her battle opponent becomes reversed, if you have another adolescence character, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a level 2 or higher character, put it to hand. This card is not the craziest card ever. However, she can sometimes just plus you free cards for no reason, for no cost other than a reverse, which at level 0 being a 4k beater, isn't really a hard cost to meet. It's not going to show up in most decks, but for anyone that likes Little Sister or something like that, or just wants something that can randomly plus them for free, there's nothing wrong with this card. It's decent enough that's worth mentioning. Then we've got this Obsessed with Sushi Anna. If she's in the middle position of your center stage, she gets 3000 power. So as long as she's in that spot of your center stage, she'll be 3500 cross turn. She also has another effect, which is probably the primary reason you play her, which is when she's placed on stage from hand, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose one of your opponent's characters and return it to their hand. This is a good card to deal with problems. Usually something like a Neg-Soul, or if your opponent has a really big body that you want to get rid of, or if you're playing against Shana and they've got the 1/1 Yuji out there, or if you're playing against Nikkei and they've got the Modernia and you want to deny the rest event that they've got, you could bounce the Modernia. It's not bad to have as a one-of. It is sort of meta dependent. You're not always going to need it. It's a decent enough card where throwing in a slot isn't bad. Throwing one of it into your deck is not a waste of a slot. And even if you just have to play her out, put her in the center stage, you got a 3500 power character there for really no true condition or cost. It's really not bad, and it's something that's worth thinking about. That'll be the level zeros we'll look at right now. I think this set does have plenty of other good zeros in it. I think these are just some of the notable ones worth mentioning. Level 0 game in this set is very, very strong. Leagues better than Girls Band Cry, which came out just a few weeks ago. One of the better level 0 lineups we've seen in a while. I think you have a lot of different options. I think we only looked at a single green character. There are other green zeros that you can be playing besides from that Clock Kick Brainstorm. Nothing that's really there aren't cards that are necessarily bad, even though there are cards that are bad. There are cards that are good, just not worth mentioning. We mostly focused on yellows because yellow definitely has the best level 0 lineup. Red and blue are solid enough. There are other ones in those colors worth looking at. So if you are looking to sort of just go for a deck that's more focused on red or blue, there are other options you can be looking at in those colors aside from what we just looked at. Moving on to other notable cards worth discussing. This section will talk about cards that aren't the level 1 combos, level 3 combos, or level 0s. So we're going to be looking at some level 1s, 2s, and 3s that are just worth taking a look at. This set does have some good options at each level, particularly its level 1 lineup and its level 3 lineup. To start, we're going to be looking at some level 1s. We're going to be looking at some yellow ones here. We've got this Strong Helper Lemon. During your turn, if you have another adolescence character, she gets 1500 power, which isn't the strongest, but her second effect is when her battle opponent becomes reversed, you may choose one of your other adolescence characters and return it to your hand. The first time I read this, I kind of had to read it twice because I thought it was missing some sort of cost or condition aside from the reverse. I think she doesn't have one aside from the reverse because she is weak at 4,500 before a climax. However, she's a really, really strong card to be playing at level 1. With a climax, she'll be 55. Ideally, at level 1, your opponent will hopefully have some level 0 still stuck in their front row, or a lot of level 1 combos. Let's say your opponent hit level 1 first and they did the level 1 combo. A lot of level 1 combos these days are not sitting big cross turn. They swing big, but then defensively they're a little weak. So I don't think that, especially with a climax backing her up, that 55 is the worst power for a reverse. Sometimes it's just not going to happen, but I do think this is a strong card. She won't make her way into every yellow list, but I think she will pop up sometimes. Being a way that requires no hand, no stock to just get a character back to hand, I think is really strong. It's nice to have the option. It's not a bad card. She's one of the few 1/0s in the set that does not have a soul trigger, which is probably how they were trying to balance her. But I think it's a very interesting card that is worth testing out and worth taking a look at. Next up, we've got the perfect little sister Kaju. We are back to the whole needing her big brother as a resonate card because she does need to resonate with that big brother hand helmet that we've discussed a lot in order to use her effect. She's a 1/0, no soul trigger that says when during the turn that she's placed on stage from hand, when her battle opponent becomes reversed, you may pay the cost, which is to resonate with the Big Brother helmet card, as well as rest one of your standing adolescence characters. If you do that, you put up to one card from the top of your deck into your stock, and you perform the following action. You may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. We very often in many sets see in at least one color a level 1 card that sort of helps stock charge you. Most sets will have them. Most sets won't get them in every color. So in this set, it seems to be that yellow got it. They will typically have different conditions. Sometimes those conditions will be color dependent, but sometimes you'll need a climax. Sometimes you'll need to reveal a certain level character from the top of your deck when you attack. This one requires both the reverse, the resonate, and resting another one of your characters. So she does technically have 3 sort of conditions associated with her. But it's easy enough to rest one of your standing characters. You just rest something in your back row. If you're playing Little Sister deck, hopefully by level 1 you've got the Big Brother card you need to resonate. It is a decent enough way to stock charge you a little bit. It won't make its way into every deck. I think it's a nice option to have though. The optional draw a card discard, I think is not a bad effect to have stapled to this effect. I think it's something you're not going to use every time you use the first effect, but I guess when you need it, it's nice to have the option. Not a bad card. She'll make her way into some lists. Could help when you're playing the level 3 Kaju combo because you do have a 10 upfront stock requirement to triple it. So she can help you get there. Definitely not a bad card. Next up, we have this Asami Gondo. She is a 1/0 yellow with a soul trigger. Her effect is once per turn when you use a resonate, so she works well in Little Sister deck because she resonates like it's her job. When you use a resonate, you pick one of your characters, it gets 2,000 power until end of turn. So not only does she work very well with the actual level 1 Little Sister combo, because that does need a reverse, or at least an empty lane across from it to get its climax combo effect. So this will pump power and it will do it very easily. And if you're playing that combo, you're basically forced to resonate anyway. It also works really well with this level 1 Little Sister combo. So that way she is 7k without a climax, 8k with a climax. Now that is a power level that really makes it pretty easy to get a reverse at level 1 on just about anything your opponent can throw at you at level 1. Now this Asami does have another effect, which is when a climax with choice is placed into your climax area. If you have 2 or more other adolescence characters, you may pay the cost. The cost is just discarding a card. If you do, look at up to 3 cards from top of deck, pick any card from among them, add it to hand, put the rest to waiting room. Not a bad card. Again, it won't make its way into every list. I think it is a solid enough card if you are really going all in on the whole Little Sister Big Brother package. I think this is a really solid card to throw in, because the power can be relevant at times. The other effect does give deck speed. I think it's nice that you could grab any character. I think it's nice that you could discard any card, so you can discard excess climaxes, which can be really important even if you don't really care about what you're grabbing off the top deck three. Definitely something that's decent. It probably won't see much play in any sort of choice deck that just plays the level 1 Ana choice combo instead. But if you're going with the level 3 choice combo with the little sister, there might be some value to playing this if you're playing at least one of the choice combos at level 1, so you've got some yellow at level 1. Next up, we've got another 1/0 with a soul trigger, which is this Predator Lemon. Her first effect is when she's placed on stage from hand, you may pay the cost, which is to discard a Adolescence character. If you do, reveal the top 2 cards of your deck. Your opponent chooses one event or character from among them, adds it to your hand, and the rest go to waiting room. This effect is sort of just okay. It kind of stinks that you have to discard an Adolescence character, but it's sort of annoying that your opponent gets to pick the card that goes to your hand. It does whiff on climaxes. They cannot put a climax into your hand. So if you do mill 2 climaxes, well, you just really negged. But if you mill a climax and you mill something else, your opponent has to give you the other card, the other character or event. So that can help mitigate your opponent's own decisions, which is something, I guess. However, she does have a second effect, which is good, which is when she becomes reversed, if her battle opponent is cost 0 or lower, you may put that character in your opponent's stock, and then the bottom card of their stock goes to waiting room. I think that second effect is already good enough on its own, where it's not bad in a yellow deck to play this like as a one of, in case you go up against something with some problematic cost zeros, which do pop up every now and again, that might just have high powers or something like that. Having that first effect attached to a good second effect is not bad. You might not use it every time you play out this Predator Lemon, but it's something that you might want to use sometimes for whatever reason. So it's not bad. I think there is some use to it as a one of. As a one of, it's really not a bad card. Next up is one of my favorite level 1 cards in the set, which is this Lemon. She's a 1/0 with the Soul Trigger. She comes from the Trial deck. During your turn, if you have another Adolescence character, she gets 3,000 power, so 6k during your turn without any other buffs like a Climax or something. When she attacks, you may pay the cost, which is putting an Adolescence character from your stage into your waiting room. If you do, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's an Adolescence character, put it into your hand. This card has come in so clutch for me with the H-Choice Kaju deck, because that is a very stock heavy level 3 combo. Again, you need 10 stock up front if you want to triple it. And the problem when you have such a high stock finisher, you can't really be spending much stock throughout the course of the game because you need to save it. Which means that unless the game is going really well for you, it's very easy to start bleeding hand, which is also a problem because you need a decent amount of hand in addition to stock to use the level 3 Kaju combo, at least if you want to triple it. This Lemon absolutely fixes that. Not only is she adding more soul triggers to what is probably your 8 choice deck if you're going that route, but she also just gives you stockless ways to maintain hand size. It feels really great when one of your other characters gets reversed when you swing with it. So it was going to die anyway. You just killed it and sent it to the waiting room a tiny bit earlier than it would have on its own. So you're basically turning dead cards into potentially live cards, and even if they're not live cards, you're still just maintaining hand size with it. Now, even if you are not playing the level 3 combo, if you're playing one of the level 1 choice combos, probably the Ana combo, this is still a great supplemental card at level 1 for the same purpose. Kills characters that are dying anyway while doing it for no stock. Swinging at 6k before a climax or any other buff is not bad. Being a 1/0 with a soul trigger is very strong. We have seen recently, like with Bane Dream has this sort of effect on a 0, how powerful that is. Ruby has this in a red 1/0. It's good in the Ruby deck. That notably does not have a soul trigger. I think this card is really great all around. I think people are sleeping on it a little bit. Being in the trial deck is insane. It's a very, very strong trial deck card and a really good color for the set. So I think Bushiroad did a really great job when giving it the Soul Trigger and when making it yellow. Just really, really great card all around. Next up, we have another lemon. We have this 1/0 green hyped up lemon. I discussed this card briefly when we were going over the level 1 lemon bar combo that I gave a bit of a hard time to. So this is the one that when it attacks, you pick one of your characters, you give it 1500 for the turn. When she attacks, all of your characters, including herself, get the ability until end of turn that when their trigger check reveals a climax with bar in its trigger icon. You may draw a card. If you do, you pick a card in your hand and you put it to waiting room. And when she becomes reversed, you may put her at the bottom of your deck. I think that she goes to bottom deck because she's meant to be played with the lemon that needs to mill a character from the bottom of your deck in order to salvage it. Which kind of stinks because I don't know how much you really want to be looping this combo, this card specifically, or that level 1 combo. It's not a bad card per se. I think that last line really is just in there for the level 1 combo. If that level 1 combo didn't mill from bottom, then I think that last line would actually be pretty bad. But because the level 1 combo does mill from bottom, that last line actually winds up being good for the deck. Unfortunately, 8 bar is just sort of the weakest way to go, I think, with pretty much anything in Makeine. It's fine if you like lemon. I think the bar support isn't the strongest bar support we've seen, but it's not terrible. It is a way to get, when you trigger a bar, if you really don't want that bar, it is a way to sort of get rid of that bar. Now, from my experience playing anything sort of like this, all that's going to happen, even though statistically it shouldn't happen, bar just has a funny way where it says screw statistics. You're going to trigger a bar, you're going to blind stock a bar, you're going to use this lemons effect to draw a card. You're just going to draw another bar. So now you're just going to be stuck with 2 bars in your hand. And you did the whole draw thing just so that you could get rid of the bar that you didn't want in your hand to begin with. You could have 2 bars left in your deck or 3 bars left in your deck, and that's exactly what's going to happen. You could have 3 bars and 40 cards, and that's just how it's going to happen. That's just Weiss. That's how bar works. That's just the rules. I don't make them up. I just tell you what's going to happen. But if the game was more fair, I would say this is a decent enough amount of bar support. It's really just unfortunate that its last line is only specific to itself. I think it would probably be unfair if that last line lets you put like a character from your waiting room at the bottom of your deck. I think if it did that rather than just when it becomes reversed, put it at the bottom of your deck. If it was like on attack, or even if it was when it gets reversed, you could put a character from the your waiting room to bottom of the deck. I think that would really go a long way to helping fix that lemon combo. At that point, it might be too broken. I'm just like going off the top of my head there. In my notes, I didn't have that little segue planned, but I wish that level 1 lemon bar combo was better. Something like that would have made it better. Not the worst thing. If we ever get a set 2 and we get another level 1 bar combo that's even marginally better than what we got, I think this is something that we'll see play of as a 1 of or a 2 of. Ideally, your bar support should be something that like salvages you or something like that by discarding a bar. I think they try to do too much with this card to support the level 1 lemon, and by doing so they try to balance it a bit too much, and because they balance it too much, because they were doing too much with it, it just makes it, rather than being really good at like one thing, it winds up being like really mediocre at several things. It only goes to bottom of your deck, which is great because you want your lemons to be milling climax characters from the bottom. The problem is she's swinging at 5k with the climax, and sometimes you're just not going to be able to get yourself reversed with a 5k. And if you're not swinging with the climax, well, then you're not doing a level 1 combo, so you kind of need the climax. It's just too much. They don't do anything really particularly well. But if you are in a bar, you're probably going to be playing this, and it could be worse. So I only mention it despite the fact that you would not be playing this in anything else. It's not the worst level 1 bar support that you could imagine, I guess, because you're already making a lot of concessions by playing that level 1 bar combo to begin with. Next up, we have this Baggy Disguise Ana. She is the anti-change counter for this deck. She is a 1/0 where when you use her backup, which is just a 1k backup, you could pay the cost, which is discard 2 cards from your hand. If you do, you pick one of your opponent's characters with level higher than their current level, and you put it on the bottom of their deck. It's always nice when a set has anti-change counters. Most sets will get them these days. Sometimes sets will get more than one in a set. Discard 2 is a lot, especially when you factor in that it's basically a discard 3, because you still have to discard the backup itself to use its effect. It is nice that it's discard any 2 cards, so you can discard events or you can discard climaxes if need be. It's always nice to have an anti-change counter, even if it has this sort of high hand cost to it. I think a lot of people aren't going to know what Makeine does. They're not going to realize that the set has it. They might frontal with something that's higher level than they currently are, and you'll just be able to get rid of a character. I do like that it sends it to the bottom of the deck. It means that there is no way that they can encore it or save it via anything. It is always nice when they do that rather than just send it to waiting room. So that is something that's worth, it's nice knowing you have the option for it. Next up, we have 2 events that I think are worth looking at. First, we'll look at the one on the right. This is the one that we've talked about a few times. It's an astounding sum. It's from the trial deck. Its effect is if you have 2 or more adolescence characters, you may pick one of your adolescence characters in your waiting room, put it to stock, then you mill the top 3 cards of your deck, put them in the waiting room. If all of them are copies of this event or adolescence characters, you may put the top card of your deck into your stock. This is the event that the level 1 trial deck on a combo grabs from her effect. Just as a reminder, when she gets a reverse, if you got the climax, she's put the top 2 cards of your deck and put the top card of your deck into your waiting room twice. You could grab this specific event or character. This is a really, really good card. It is just turning a hand into a stock for no other cost with a chance to give you an extra stock, even if it is a blind stock. This card does show up in a lot of lists. There's a good reason why. It also does give you a little bit of deck speed. You can use it because it's got that little fist there. That means you could use it, for anyone unfamiliar, you can use it during your opponent's trigger step in case you do just need some deck speed. So it's nice to have that option. The first effect has that really, really nice art on it. Too many losing heroines. 1-0 event that if you have 2 or less adolescence characters, you can't play it from your hand, which is okay as a condition, but it also is colorless, which is really, really nice, especially because we have the level 1 on a choice combo that can grab events. So having the whole colorless requirement, because that's in yellow and this is in blue, it means you could play this on your opponent's following turn after you've grabbed it with your level 1 combo, which is nice. What its actual effect is when you use it, you can look at the top 4 cards of your deck, or up to top 4 cards, pick an adolescence character, show it to your opponent, add it to hand, rest go to waiting room. We have seen this sort of event effect many, many times over the years. It's been coming out for years. Really good card. It's often referred to as Torch, but the colorless requirement, I think, is really the colorless condition is really nice. Being able to grab it off the on a level 1 choice is really, really good. It doesn't see play in every deck, but it's nice that the set does have it as an option. I think it's really powerful when you combine it with the level 1 on it, because she's milling up to 5 with a minimum of 3, and if you just need deck speed and you see this and you grab it, this gives you even more deck speed. So it just adds a lot of value to that combo specifically. It doesn't pop up a ton, but it is decent enough and definitely worth mentioning. Next up, we have this Shady Plan Koto. She's one of the side characters in the show. She is the door support at level 1 that I discussed earlier when talking about the level 1 and level 3 door Chica combos. This card is very, very close with minor differences to the red Kenshin 1-0 that I've discussed on this channel before, that is also door support. This Koto says that during your turn, if you have 2 or more other adolescence characters, she gets 4,000 power. So she will be 5,500 before climax. 65 with a climax. Now, her other effect is really why you play her. During the turn that she's placed on stage from hand, when a door climax is placed in your climax area, if you have another adolescence character, you may pay the cost, which is just to discard any card. If you do, you pick any door climax in your waiting room, you return it to hand, and this Koto gets the following ability until end of your opponent's turn. When your other character is frontal attacked, you may pay 1, send this Koto to waiting room, return that character that's being frontal attacked back to your hand. So she turns herself into a JC. Kenshin got almost this exact profile. The difference was that Kenshin was really, really weak, but it had 2 soul. This only has 1 soul, like a normal 1-0, but she does gain more power. There are going to be games where you'd rather have the power. There are going to be games where you'd rather have the soul and the no power. I don't think it really matters that she doesn't have the soul. I think it really is going to be game dependent, where sometimes you wished she was different. Sometimes you wish that you're happy that she's not different, that she is different from that Kenshin. Either way, that is such a secondary effect. It really doesn't matter. This card is really, really great in Door. Turning, the set does not have a level 0 JC. JC, for anyone unfamiliar, is just it's a jump counter is what it's short for, and it's that whole effect where when your other character's frontal attacked, you can basically bounce it back to hand. Turning this character into a JC after it's already grabbed another copy of your Door climax is just really, really strong. It's a really great way to be looping your level 1 combo, because you're not only can you grab the Door climax back when you're using it at level 1 to start, though you could grab another level, another Door climax if you wanted to. There's nothing stopping you, but the whole fact that she turns into a JC after grabbing a Door climax is really there so that you could just loop your level 1 Door combo. It's always great to be looping your level 1 combos. You get some good advantage that way. Door gives soul, which means you're pushing 2 soul at least for 2 turns in a row. It's just really, really great. If you can't triple your level 1 Chica Door combo, this really helps make up for it, because even if you just get 1 copy of it out, let's say, she is milling 2 cards twice, so it'd be pretty easy to grab not only another copy of herself for the following turn, it would be easy for her to grab another copy of this Koto the following turn, because she's doing it for the following turn since it's twice, and then the Koto you already have on the stage will have grabbed your climax back. She'll bounce the first one back to hand when it's attacked. Now you're just set up to do double level 1 combo with another Koto, grab another Door, do another JC. It becomes it's like sort of just like it's a self-fueling loop almost, and it requires very, very little upfront. As we discussed a bunch, the level 3 Chica Door combo in the set is super cheap, so paying a stock every turn really doesn't matter. Being able to discard anything to actually use the effect, including climaxes if you do have too many, or events, is a nice little touch to have. She's swinging decently big, so unlike the Kenshin, she will be able to get over anything. The advantage of the Kenshin having low power but having 2 soul was that he'd be swinging for 3 soul with the climax, so it was really easy for him to side and still be swinging for at least 2 most of the time. This one can't side as well, though it's still fine if she has to. It's not the worst thing in the world. Very, very solid card overall. I am very glad that they are printing that effect more. I was hoping it wouldn't be a one-off with Kenshin. I don't know how much JP gets that sort of effect. We don't get that sort of effect very often, but it's a really great effect, and I would like to start seeing it on climaxes that weren't just Door. But for now, I think it's a great piece of support for Red. It's a great piece of support for Door. Definitely helps make Door make up for the fact that it's not the most explosive finisher, because there is a ton of value with just pushing soul and maintaining resources over and over and over again, as we've seen with some recent level 1 combos. Next up, we've got this money counter. It's a 2-3 money counter, which is nice. Some of the ones we've seen recently you can't use till level 3, and they still cost 3 stock. But this is a full field money counter. For anyone who does not know, money counter is just a colloquial term used in Weiss to refer to an event that basically gives one of your opponent's characters the ability that it can't deal damage to a player that turn. So this is a card that you pay the 3 stock. If you have 5 or more Adolescence characters, you pick one character in battle, and that character gets the following ability till end of turn, where it cannot deal damage to a player. You also pick one of your characters and give it 1500 power until end of turn. Money counters were better when they weren't full field money counters. SAO has one. They don't really print them too much anymore. Now, for the most part, for a while, they have been full field money counters with some exceptions. They also have started pushing them to level 3 only, which does make them lose some of their value. It's nice when you can do it at 2. So a lot of sets that do get them, they don't even bother playing them anymore because if you crash a lane the turn before, they're useless. If your opponent really knows you have it, all they have to do is bounce one of your characters. So there are weaknesses to a fulfilled money counter. However, I think certain sets, certain decks and certain sets like Red Makeine, I think it does have more value than other sets would. Mostly because the level 3 Chica again is so cheap and so efficient. It's not unreasonable to think you could like triple that Chica and still have enough stock for the money counter. You won't always have it. Sometimes you might not be able to do all 3 copies of the combo, but it's nice to have the option. Red's not a bad color for the set. You can grab it off the level 1 on a combo if you want. You could grab it off of anything that would grab events. Just very strong overall. Uh, Probably would only see play in the red door Chica deck. However, as mentioned when we were looking at the level 3 combos, um, the level 3 Ana combo that lets you hit level 5 before dying, I think that combo could benefit from this because you don't have to, if you don't have the stock or you don't want to pay the cost to have the hold, you can be level 4 without dying effect. You could have this in there, and because you just built up 3 stock that turn from your 3 attacks, even if you had 0 stock at the start of your attack phase, you'll have 3 stock by the end of it. And so you would have this option, and it's always nice to have it. It's especially powerful for anyone who doesn't know, any newcomers. Many level 3 climax combos that deal damage, they will be on attack deal damage, whatever that damage may be. However, there are some climax combos that are at end of attack deal a certain amount of damage. Something like Bochi, for example, where the main combo from that is at end of attack, you can pay the cost and burn 3. Not only does this shut down the damage done from the actual attack of the character, but if they have an at end of attack sort of deal damage effect, it would also shut down the damage from that effect as well, which won't come up as often, that part, but when it does, this card feels practically like a rest counter at that point, and rest counters are even better than money counters. But at the very least, you'll stop the damage from the swing. So I don't see this card making its way into all Makeine decks, but it is nice that the set does have an option. It's something that some people like. It's definitely something that if your opponent sees you're playing it, now they have to sort of play around it, and that forces them to do things they might not have as otherwise. And if they don't play around it and you can use it, you might just be able to win the game because you survived a turn that you might not have survived otherwise. Next up, we have the super funny card, Frozen Smile Anna. I put the SR art here because it's really nice to look at, but it has some pretty funny art from the regular version. Not that that matters, but she is a 2/0 with a soul trigger, so not something we see very often. Her effect is during your turn, she gets 8,000 power, so she is 10k on your turn. She is only 2k on your opponent's, so she's a little weak, but on your turn, she's very strong. For something that costs 0 stock to play, not bad. When she's placed on stage from hand, you put up to 1 card from the top of your deck into your stock, and you put the top card of your deck face up underneath her as a marker. Now, when she's placed from your stage to your waiting room, while she has a marker underneath it, you put her into your clock. Now, you can pay 1 to pick a marker underneath her and put it into your waiting room if you want at any point during your main phase. This card is really, really great to sort of generate very low cost stock generation. We have seen the value of that with certain things. In English, we had Bunny Girl 3 was playing the Stockuta stock charging package, where it was a blue 1/0 that on play you can pick a level 0 character from your waiting room, a specific one, and you send it to your stock. Being able to generate stock in your main phase like that can be very, very powerful. It can often mean the difference between playing 2 copies of your level 3 combo and playing 3 copies of your level 3 combo. Now, ReZero also has a similar package as that Stakuta. However, they don't have the drawback of forcing yourself to clock yourself. You can avoid that as long as this card does not hit your waiting room from the stage. There are a couple of ways you could do that. You can just plop it in the back row. That is one way. You can attack with it, and then you could clean cut with it and move it to your back row. Um, Honestly, leaving it in your back row, whether it's through a clean cut or just never attacking with it, those are the two big ways, and the ways that will happen most often. The third way is to pay the one to get rid of the marker. That way she doesn't go to your clock, which sort of defeats the purpose of the whole stock charging element. But sometimes maybe you don't need to stock charge. Maybe you just need some deck speed. That's an option. The other option is you can use that 1-0 lemon that we looked at earlier this slide, that when it gets reversed, you could take a character from your stage and return it to your hand. At that point, it would not trigger the Anna's effect to go to your clock because she's not going from your stage to your waiting room. She's going from stage back to hand. So you return it to your hand. You get to keep that stock you got. It is an option. For most of my testing, though, I will just play her out and I'll just leave her on my backstage. Being a 2-0 with a soul trigger is super strong. It's nice to be able to grab her off choice, whether it's to send her to stock. I guess if you trigger choice, you could always just send her to stock rather than hand, which would be better. Than it would be the same amount of stock you would generate as if you added it to hand and then played it out to generate the free stock. However, there is value to having 2-0s with soul triggers in your deck in an 8-choice deck. It just adds extra soul triggers to it. Most people that are playing some version of Makeine and they want to do some stock charging, they basically choose between this or the 1-0 event from the trial deck that gives you up to 2 stock for essentially free. A lot of people will gravitate towards that event. There are people that do gravitate towards this. I think there are pluses and minuses to both, though there's definitely less minuses to the event for sure. The biggest thing going against that event is that it is an event, whereas this is a character and it's just easier to grab. But I think I've tested this in the simulator. I will be testing it in real life first this week once I get my cards in, and it's worked very well in the simulator. Being able to do it during the main phase is really great. There have also been times where I have just needed the deck speed. It seems minor, doesn't come up a lot, but sometimes those two cards do make a bit of a difference. Overall, it's a very funny card. The scene is a pretty flavorful. The whole card itself is very flavorful from the show. The whole idea in the show is she's constantly going into debt because she's borrowing money because she just keeps spending money on food and stuff like that. So she's like, it's flavorful because she's borrowing money by giving you the free stock essentially, but it's hurting herself like when she goes to clock because she's putting herself further into debt. So it is flavorful to the show, and you can mitigate that by paying the one and losing the marker, which is basically her repaying the debt. So it's very flavorful, so it is funny, but it's also just a really good card overall. I've never played an 8-choice deck in my life before this one that had like 20 whatever soul triggers in it. Just because most 1-0 combos in the past that were on choice did not have a soul trigger, but there are so many good 1-0s and this 2-0 in the set that just have soul triggers. So you're just getting some really powerful effects without having to spend any stock, which is very important in the Kaju deck, but it's also good in other versions too. It's always nice to have some free stock. You could use this with the lemon if you really wanted to. It's just very versatile, so I do enjoy this card. It may not show up as much as the event, but I think it will show up. Next up, we have this 3-1 event that is the perfect body achieved for the 15th time, featuring Anna, who's always got to go on about her body, but whatever. It's a funny event. I'm bringing it up. It's not going to see play in a ton of decks, but it is kind of unique and it is funny, so I thought it was worth mentioning. If you have two or less adolescence characters, it can't be played from your hand. When you use it, you look at up to 15 cards from the top of your deck. That's right, 15 cards. You pick one adolescence character from among them, doesn't matter what their level is, and you put it on any position of your stage, and the rest go to waiting room. This is a really funny way to sort of cheat out a level 3 card for only 1 stock. And it is sort of a gamble because you might whiff on it and you might not see the level 3. I mean, you could bring out anything, but the idea, I think, was just to bring out a 2 stock level 3 for only 1 stock, saving you a little bit of stock. Um, but 15 is a huge number, and it is up to 15, which is kind of nice. It gives you a ton of deck speed if you really want it. I mean, how often do we get a 1 stock, 1 hand, basically mill 15 if you want, and you still get a character out of it? You're not going to see 15 climaxes or 15 events off the top. It's not going to see play a ton, but it is funny. Notably, it does not like go to your hand before being played or anything. It's basically you're looking at them from your deck and then playing it out, so you do miss any on-play effects. I think if you're playing this card, you are okay with that. It's, a funny card, just something to keep in mind. But it is a very interesting card. We've seen sort of events before where like they do cheat out characters, but I'm not sure if I've ever seen something that was a 1 stock look at 15. I have seen events that will look at big numbers, but there is generally a higher cost to them. Like I've seen events that will look at whatever the number was, even if it was a big number, but they were like pay 3, for example. This is just so cheap and so efficient, and it's in a good color for the set, so it is a pretty interesting card. Next up, we got some early play healers. Each of the 3 main losing heroines has their own version of an early play healer with condition in different colors and conditions and all sorts of things. The first one is this friend and fellow dumpy Anna. She is a yellow early play stock healer. Her early play condition is if your opponent has a level 3 or higher character, or your waiting room has 2 or less climaxes, she gets -1 level while in your hand. This is sort of a very funny condition. We have seen both of these conditions separately before, where if your opponent has a level 3 or higher character, your character gets -a level, or if you have 2 or less climaxes, your character gets -a level. We have not in English, at least not to my memory, seen both of these effects combined. Now, I will argue that both of these are probably like 2 out of the 3 worst conditions you might generally see on an early play level 3, because the level 3 one is really outside of your control, and sometimes you just have more than 2 climaxes. However, I think when combining it, there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's perfectly fine. In my testing in the simulator, I really don't have a problem getting this out. She also gets 3k power on your turn, so she's swinging at 11, which is pretty big on your turn. And she is a stock healer, so when you play her out, regardless of what level you play her out, you can discard a card. If you do, you heal to stock. So you're basically playing her out for 1 stock, which is very nice. It's a good card overall. 4 or more is the better condition. The other 2 early play healers in the set do have that condition. But I guess they couldn't give everything 4 or more. And yellow already had so many good cards, maybe they felt they couldn't give it a 4 or more early play healer as well. Maybe that was part of the balance. But I think they basically did their best. The only way they could have made it better without changing it to a 4 or more is if it was a 3 or higher character condition, as well as you or your opponent has 2 or less climax, which you or your opponent having 2 or less climax is something we have seen before. Still a little tough, but at that point it does become kind of hard to whiff it. But definitely something you could throw a couple copies of and you won't feel bad about playing it. Next up, we have this Back Turn to the Moonlight Lemon, 3/2 green, early play. She is a 4 or more adolescence characters, early play. During your turn, if you have 2 or more other characters, she gets 2k power, so she's 10k on your turn. When she's placed on stage from hand, you may put up to 1 card from the top of your clock into your waiting room, and if you have another adolescence character, you look at up to 2 cards from the top of your deck, and you choose up to 2 cards from among them and put them on top of your deck in any order, and you send the rest of them to your waiting room. This is a very interesting card. She is just like the Ana. She's not big cross turn, which some people. She's actually for a level 3 early play kind of weak cross turn, which some people would say is a knock against it. But I think it's a very interesting card. If you're playing the green top end, I think there's no reason not to play this. The 4 or more condition is the best condition because it's the easiest to manipulate. And 10k power before climax is nothing to sneeze at. Also, but looking at the top 2 is very, very strong because you can leave them or you can dump them. So if you see climaxes, you could leave them there and brainstorm to get rid of them. And that's pretty nice. If you don't see climaxes, you can dump them, and now you just dug 2 cards closer to a climax. It's nice that you have the option. It's very versatile. There are situations where you will want to be able to leave to look at cards and either make the decision to mill them or dump them. Just nice that your early play has that. We don't really see that sort of thing too often, and she still does heal, which is nice. Next up, we have the introverted girl Chica. She also has the 4 more adolescence character early play condition. However, she has the biggest power cross turn of them both, because if you have 2 more other adolescence characters, she gets 5,000 power. That is cross turn, so she will be 10-5 before any other sort of buffs. So the other 2, they are only 8k on your opponent's turn. Now, she will be bigger than the lemon on your turn. She will be weaker by 500 than the Ana on your turn, but cross turn, she easily beats them both, and 10-5 is very respectable cross turn. On play, you may, if you have 2 more other adolescence characters, which you will because you needed 4 to play her out, early at least, you may heal 1, and then you may pay 1. If you paid 1, you perform the following action. You put up to 2 cards from the top of your clock into your waiting room, and then you deal 1 damage to yourself X times. X is equal to the number of cards put into your waiting room by this action. This is a really, really funny card. She is guaranteed, as long as you choose to, she's going to heal 1 like a normal early play healer. So don't worry about that. No matter what, she's healing the 1. Then if you do pay the extra stock, you do heal up to 2 times, and then depending on whether it was once or twice, or 0, I guess, if you just want to pay the stock for some reason, you burn yourself that same number of times. But it's not putting cards from your deck into your clock. It is damage, and that means the damage can be canceled. So you can potentially heal up to 2 extra times for a total of 3 times, and then if you had 2 climaxes on top of your deck, you would cancel both of those burn ones, and now for a total of 3 stock, you healed 3 times. That is pretty great. Now, obviously, there's a lot of RNG rolled into that. So you do have to think about that. But sometimes you might just want to pay out the stock. Again, the Chica level 3 combo is so cheap that extra stock probably doesn't matter. And again, if you do take those damage, you're still healing 1 at the end of the day. You're not like actually taking damage. You're just going to be in the same spot, but with the heal 1 still. And if you did take both of those burn 1s, you did just turn your brainstorm from a 4-card brainstorm into a 6-card brainstorm. So that is interesting. It is a funny card. Cross turn 10-5 is nice. It's very helpful in the level 3 Chica deck because it's less likely. It's more likely that your opponent will have to crash into it because 10-5 is pretty big if you're both still at level 2, which helps the level 3 Chica because she doesn't activate till Encore Step for her climax combo, so it does help her dodge like memory kicks and that sort of thing that might remove her from the stage before the Encore Step. So overall, I think it's going to be the mainstay easily in a red deck. This is going to be the level 3 early play healer of choice. I think for pretty much any of the girls when you're building their decks, each girl will most likely be the early play healer that you fit into it just because of how the colors work out. But each one has advantages. None of them really have disadvantages. They're pretty standard. The biggest disadvantage would be the Ana with her condition, but having 2 different ways to meet her condition is pretty nice, and it's not that hard to do. So you won't whiff too often with her. Overall, but all 3 of these are very good options, I think. Next up, we have this double peace sign Ana. When she's placed on stage from hand, you may choose one of the following effects and perform it. Your opponent returns all cards from their stock to their deck, shuffles their deck, and puts the same number of cards from the top of their deck into their stock. So she's just a stock shuffle. Stock swap doesn't get printed as much. Stock shuffles still do have some value. You're not going to use them as often as you would a stock swap, I've preached about this a million times and bemoaned it, but it's pretty fair. Stock swaps can be pretty devastating and pretty unfair. But stock shuffles can still hit climaxes, so it's worth having one copy of this. If you don't want to do that, instead, what you can do is you draw up to 3 cards, and then you choose the same number of cards that you drew and you put them into your waiting room. So you won't actually plus off of that effect, but she is really great hand filtering. Dig 3 is pretty big. If you really just need to grab a climax or something like that, or a specific character, you're not like negging on the draw 3, you're just losing the 1 card from actually playing this Ana, but that's it. So pretty decent effect overall. I have used that draw 3 to success before. It's nice to have it stapled to the stock shuffle. It makes it feel less bad as if it was just a stock shuffle, because there is some versatility behind it. It does kind of stink that it can't be played to level 3, but I think it's fine overall. She also has Twin Drive on attack, so for anyone who doesn't know, that just refers to an effect where on attack you may pay 1. If you do on the trigger check, you do the trigger check twice. So you don't actually gain stock from it, but it's a good way to either dig through your deck a little bit if you need some deck speed and you need that extra card, or to pay out a climax that was triggered on the previous attack that turn. It's a good way to pay them out to keep your stock clean. Decent enough card overall. For anything that has any splash of yellow, this would probably be thrown into most decks that can fit yellow as just a one of. Next up, we have this undefeatable Gluttony Ana. Yet another Ana card that mentions her gluttony because she does not stop eating. She is insatiable. This Ana was mentioned briefly when I was discussing the level 3 Ana combo that lets you get to level 4 without dying. This card was clearly built for that specific card. She has experience that she gets 2,000 power for each adolescence character in your level. So she can get up to 8,000 more power. So that's pretty big. Because you can be level 4 if you're playing her in that deck. When you play her on stage from hand, you draw up to 2 cards, discard 2 cards, and then you blind stock 1 from top of deck. So you go neutral on hand, but you do play her out of 1 stock, which is nice. And then when she attacks, if you have 2 or more other adolescence characters, you may pay the cost, which is discard any 2 cards from your hand. If you do, you deal X damage to your opponent. X is equal to 0 if the number of adolescence characters in your level is 2 or less. X is 1 if the number is 3, and X is 2 if that number is 4 or more. So they put 4. Normally 4 would be impossible because everyone loses by the time they hit level 4, but in the Ana level 3 deck, you can be level 4. So the idea is that you've got her, and she at level 3, she's still burn 1. Discard 2, burn 1 isn't the best, but discard 2 to burn 2 is not bad. And she will be really, really big. So there's a good chance that like if you only double your level 3 combo and you play this in the 3rd lane, by the time you hit level 4, she is sitting really big. It's probably unlikely that your opponent's going to be able to beat over her, which does give you a decent enough off finisher, cross turn off finisher, basically. She can use her effect beyond just the turn that she's played from stage to hand. So it's a very solid card. 1 stock is nice. It is pretty much a mainstay in that deck, at least at a couple of copies. Very solid all finisher for that deck. When you're not playing that deck, she is at most going to be a burn 1, which isn't great, but you know, she's not meant to be for other decks. Next up, we have these 3 cards here, which are all 2/1s. Now, these 2/1s all pair with the level 3 combos for their respective girls that we looked at when we were looking at the level 3 combos. Each of these is very, very similar in the sense that they are 2/1s that match the same color as their girls' level 3 combos, and they are able to play out their level 3 combos from their hand while these are in their memory. And each one goes to memory by getting reversed. Now, they all do slightly different things. The first one is the lemon. When she attacks, she gets 1,000 power till end of turn, and you may pay the cost. The cost being discard any card. If you do, you pick the event in your waiting room returns a hand. The event that she grabs is the event that works with the level 3 lemon combo that lets you send it to memory, and then it gives those lemons on attack, clock yourself, burn 1, which is not bad. And when she becomes reversed, you send her to your memory, which should be pretty easy because she's 5500 power. Notably, also, before I forget, all of these are 2 souls, which is pretty interesting. Makes side attacks pretty cool. And even frontal, 2 ones with 2 souls is nice. Then, while she's in your memory, you can, if you're level 2 or higher, you can pay 1 and you put this card from your memory into your waiting room. If you do, you can choose the level 3 lemon combo, the Mocha 3, in your hand. You put it on any position of your stage. Now, the other 2 girls all have that same exact effect for their respective level 3 combos. They're reversed, they go to memory. While they're in your memory, you get to do the pay 1, send them from your memory to your waiting room to summon the level 3 combo from your hand. It might be better if they were from waiting room. I guess it's dependent. It does not save you any stock if you have to hard play these cards, because you still have to pay the stock if you played it from your hand, and then you have to pay the stock to play out the level 3. The real benefit of it is that you can play them all out at level 2, and then if you survive at level 2, for the turn till the next turn, you're still level 2, you can start playing your level 3 combos. You're probably not going to be fielding multiple copies of this. It is fine. The real benefit to this package is really not actually hard playing these. It's using them with this level 2 standby combo. It is the only standby in the entire set, so it's also the only standby combo. There's not even like a dead, empty standby trigger in the set. Now, by standby standards, this is actually not that great of a card. It honestly seems like it exists purely to be able to get your 2 ones into your memory very, very early. Her effect is she is a frontal assist for 1000, doesn't matter what their level is, and then her climax combo is when during your climax phase, when this Chica is placed on stage by the effect of the standby climax, if you have another adolescence character, you may pay 1 and you sack the climax. If you do, you choose 1 level 2 or lower adolescence character in your waiting room and you put it on any position of your stage. So that character that you summon will come out standing. This one will actually not come out standing, and even if it did, it's pretty weak despite being a 2/2. The idea, and is what I assume that Bushiroad was going for, and even if they weren't, it's really the only way that people have used this standby combo, is you bring out the 2 ones that summon your level 3 combos. You get the reverses early, and at that point, you're doing this at level 1. Once you hit level 2, you're sort of ready to go to bring out at least 1 copy of your level 3 combos early. I've tested it in the simulator for each of the girls. The only one that really feels fine is the Anna. The Lemon, it doesn't really feel great to play her out, even though I do think her 2/1 is the best out of them all because she does grab her own event, which is helpful. I just think it's sort of a gimmick. You can't, if this standby Chica summoned 2 level 2s, maybe with a caveat that they had to be level 2 or lower, cost 1 or lowers, I think that would be a game changer. I think then this standby combo, that would probably be too good if we're being honest. That's why they didn't do that. But I think just being able to do it once, I don't know, it's just, to me, it doesn't really seem that great, and it didn't test that well. So I don't think there's enough of a benefit with the standby. You're not really plussing cards. Yes, you bring this out with the standby, but in terms of cards in your hand, you're at level 1 when you're ideally doing this, you're not actually adding any additional value. You're getting 1 free attacker essentially, and even that attacker still costs a stock because the only way to bring it out is by paying a stock. So your hand is going to suffer. I don't think it's really worth it. It has to be during your climax phase, so you can't even maybe trigger the standby during your attack phase, which would be totally random enough as it is and pretty bad to be honest, but you can't even trigger it and bring out this Chica and then use it whenever it's summoned by the climax in general. It's only during climax phase, so It's just not worth it in my opinion. It is an option. People have talked about it a lot. I don't really see this version topping whatsoever, really, in the JP side of things. I don't think it's going to do anything here. I think it's a gimmick that is not worth all the effort you put into it, especially when you're only burning out like one copy of your level 3. It's fine if you have the option. Unfortunately, not having another standby really makes this pretty useless. You can use it on its own if you just want to summon like a regular 2/2 standby target, which this set does have a normal 2/2 sort of beater, but you just don't. I don't think 4 standby is really the way to do it. It's not the best. Bushy Road has made standby worse in the last few years. I think most people didn't like standby or thought it was sort of unfair. So Bushy Road has printed weaker standbys, and they've just printed standby less. Um, this one's fine. Not really worth playing, in my opinion. But it is an option. That'll be it for the other notable cards in the set. There are other cards in the set that are worth looking at. These are just the ones that I felt were worth discussing in this section. Overall, it is a really great set. And I think there's a lot of really fun options. There's some cool cards that we didn't look at, but it's a good set with a lot of really good playable cards to look at. Definitely, if you're someone who's even mildly interested in the set, take the time to go just read through the set. I think if you're just looking for some cards with some great art that have some really cool, unique effects that we don't see too often, you will definitely find cards, not just the cards that I talked about here, but you might find some other cards that are you think are worth playing and trying out. Moving on to collectability, which is not something I necessarily talk about with every set, but with this set, I think it is worth discussing. This set has the trial deck and the booster. There is a lot to like in terms of collectability for this set. Pretty much every card does get a foil version, even if it's a lower rarity foil version like an SR. So if you just like the show or you like the light novels, and you like shiny cards at reasonable prices, there's definitely a lot of cool cards you could collect. The show looks beautiful. Most of the art is screen grabs, so you have some really beautiful looking cards. For higher rarity collectors, there is still some cool cards to look at. We have from the trial deck 3 different SPs. We got one of each of the main heroines. We have discussed the first 2 already. The third card is just a draw brainstorm. I think the first 2, not only do all the cards look decent, especially the Anna, and I'd say the Lemon looks nice too, and Chica's fine, but the first 2 are highly playable. So not only are they highly playable, they're also, I'd say, if you like the characters, and a lot of people like Anna, a lot of people like Lemon, and a lot of people like Chica, it is fun to have the chance to collect some of these from opening up the trial deck. Decent enough cards, especially the first 2. So there is that. Then moving on to the main booster, there are 10 SPs in the set. Here are some of them. The art is pretty nice. We sort of got some of the SPs have this sort of generic background art. Some of them are holding up Weiss cards because Bushiroad likes to advertise their own game to the people buying their game sometimes, rather than actually market it to people who have not played the game or collect the game before. But that's whatever. I think the regular ones, like we got the Kaju and the Ana that have the sort of generic background, they still look nice, very crisp character designs and all that stuff. But then we have other SPs from the booster pack, like this Lemon here and this Chica, where they just have a bit more. The art is just a bit nicer, background's more fleshed out, a little bit more detailed. So we got a little bit of a balance between the 2 types of cards. Most of the SPs are also highly playable. We didn't talk about this Lemon here. She's in the set. She is just a regular helmet from the stage. She also pumps power. Not a bad card. But most of the cards look very nice. I believe you get 3 SPs in a case. For anyone who is a fan of the show, I believe in the main booster, each of the 3 main heroines gets 3 SPs, and then the Kaju gets 1 SP, which is the one pictured here. So the Lemon has this one, her level 3 combo we talked about, her level 1 combo. The Ana has this one, she has the level 1 choice combo. And then She has the Rico that we also looked at, and then Chica has this, her level 1 door combo, and her level 3 door combo. So each of the three main girls gets 3, plus Kaju gets 1. Main character guy gets 0, because why would they give a guy an SP in this set? But if you just like the show, there is a lot of great looking SPs, pretty playable cards, um, and some of them really, really do look nice. Especially when they have the art style like the lemon and the Chica here. After that, Bushiroad took it a step further by giving this set not one or two, but three secret rares. Fortunately, these SECs are not secret pluses, which are one in like several cases, and they're really, really hard to pull. These are still hard to pull, do not get me wrong, but they are definitely easier than SEC pluses. They also features this really gorgeous art. Each one looks really, really nice. They do match the double rare art. However, the SR art for each of these is different, and in my opinion, all of them are worse, which I kind of feel like Bushiroad did on purpose. But if you're opening just a box or two and you pull one of these, you should be happy. The foiling looks absolutely gorgeous on them. The signatures look nice. They are also some of the best cards in the set, in my opinion. And they feature each of the three main heroines. So you do have that as a bonus in the set. From what I've read, oftentimes SECs do replace an SP in the set, but from what I've read people opening the set, it seems like they are a bonus in this set. So that is nice. So you still get 3 SPs in it. But again, if you like Makeine, I don't think you'll be disappointed by pulling any of the signatures in this. They do look very nice if you're a high rarity sort of collector. Then we also have these triple rare pluses on various climaxes. They're not all pictured here, but triple R pluses are like triple R's, except they sort of take away the colored border that goes around the name of the card as well as the description. It basically shows more of the art, and the foiling is nicer. They are very, very rare. You don't get one per case. I don't even think you get one per 2 cases. They are pretty rare, and there are several of them. I think it's like 7 or something like that. They undoubtedly look nicer than the triple rare pluses. Now they are much more expensive, but having seen triple rare plus climaxes in person, the foiling is just definitely superior to the regular triple R's. They do look beautiful. The images are very, very clear, very crisp. The show's got such good art. I particularly like the Anna ones. There's a lemon one that looks really nice and very clean. Even though these don't have signatures or anything, I think if you're just opening a box and you pull one of these, if you're a fan of the show, you won't be disappointed. They do have, especially on the more popular girls, they do have some value to them. I think if you're not someone who, if you just don't care about the show at all, if you like pretty anime girls, then there is some collectability to the set. If you don't care about the show at all and you only care about characters you like, there's really no point in collecting it. So collectability really, the audience is not as wide as something like an Azure Lane, a Nikkei, or a Hololive, but people do like the show. It is popular enough, especially with people who have seen it. So I think there's a lot to like if you're just opening a random box or two. In terms of collectability value-wise, if you're opening up a case, it is a little bit harder to get your money back if you are not opening up one of the secrets. But if you just like opening the set, I think there is a ton to like, whether it's low rarity, even base rarity, honestly. If you just want to buy a base rarity playset, which should run you about a couple $100. For that, you'd get 4 copies of every base rarity card in the set. And even if most of it is screenshots, show looks so beautiful, it really doesn't matter. I don't think most people who are opening it are going to be disappointed by how nice they look. And if you pull something shiny, the foiling does look pretty good in the set. Even on basic SRs, just a very good looking set overall, and that translates into good looking cards, so you won't be disappointed. Now, we're going to talk briefly about the competitive potential of this set. This set is a very good set overall, in my opinion. I think it's a solid set. It's got a lot of really good cards. It's got some really unique cards. In terms of competitive play, it hasn't done amazing on the JP side of things. JP does have some really, really broken, busted stuff that we do not have here yet, or that we will maybe never get here. They often get sets that we don't get, and some of those sets are incredibly powerful. So they do face a different meta. Some of the sets are just ridiculously strong. However, I think this is a very good set overall. I think currently we are nearing the end of single season for this season. We only have a few regionals left. Then we are going to be moving on to team season. Maybe this set does a little bit during the remainder of the single season. Um, Most likely, probably not too much. It is really new. People still got to get the cards. People still have to test with it, that sort of thing. That just takes time. I think, however, come team season, for anyone who doesn't know in Weiss, when we have our teams regionals, you got a team of three, and you play against other teams of three, but you are only allowed to play, each team can only have one series on their team. So only one player can play Makeine, only one player can play Bane Dream, only one player can play Dan. Even if you're playing totally different decks, it doesn't matter. It's limited to one series per team. I think that during a team season, something like Makeine is going to do a lot better than a single season because it has a lot of really powerful things going for it. It's very, very consistent. It has multiple good level 3 combos. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if come team season we see this have a bit of a flare up, which is not uncommon during team season because of the series restrictions. We do often see sets that have a harder time breaking through during single season just because there is a forced amount of like deck diversity during the team season. Now that doesn't mean that people are like scraping from the bottom of the barrel or anything like that. I think it's just sometimes the single season can be so competitive and everyone's just playing the absolute, or a lot of people will be playing the absolute most powerful decks. And Weiss regionals can be very unforgiving, where you basically got to go X1 in order to top. Not always, but very often, just based on how Bushiroad has it set up. I would know because I've gone X2 so many times and I've always missed out by just a couple of slots or a few slots, but that's neither here nor there. So you need something that is both explosive and consistent, or just very commanding. And Makeine is very consistent. It's not necessarily the most commanding deck like an Overlord deck, and it's not always the most explosive, aside from maybe the Kaju, but even the Kaju can sometimes just be okay if your opponent just eats a lot of the twos on the first twos. But I think this set will do very well during team season. I think the show is popular enough where people are going to be buying into it at some point or slowly opening. I think it will be like a slow drip of people opening the product and deciding to build it. I think most likely the Ana level 3 combo that lets you go to level 4 without dying will be the dominant deck that we see do the best. I think it's partially because it's going to be the most popular. Not only I think is she the most popular girl, and from what I've read, also my own bias, but I think people really love the idea of being able to go to level 4 and not die. It's still a good card. There's a lot of support around it. The zeros in this set are very, very strong. You got some good support at different levels. I think the set has so much going for it where it has all the tools it needs to do well in a competitive level. Local wise, this deck is going to do really, really great. Very solid set overall. And when we talk about regionals, I think it has the potential to do well. It needs the right sort of player. And I think once we start team season, I think there are going to be some regionals where we do see it do well. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to dominate in team season, or it's going to be on every team or every other team, or it's going to be on every winning team or anything like that. I am not trying to suggest that sort of thing, but I think it is something that is going to pop up because it is one of the better sets that we've gotten in a while. I would definitely argue that in terms of recent sets, every set has its strengths and weaknesses. When we look at the overall, how good a set is overall, though, I will say this is probably better than Dan was, better than Girls Band Cry, better than Konosuba from November for sure. Maybe not as good as Azure admittedly, which came out before that. It's better than SAO Gun Gale 2, which came out in September. So I think, and some people might come after me for this, I think aside from Azure Volume 2, this is probably the best set that we've had released in terms of competitive potential since I would argue Bane Dream Av Musica came out in last July, which was like 6 months ago now. Azure 2 is definitely a better set, and Dandadan has a lot going for it. Do not get me wrong. I think though this set, while Dandadan is a fantastic set at every single level of the game, 0, 1, 2, 3, I think Makeine just is a tiny bit more consistent, especially at 0, and it just has a bit more options at certain levels. And I think its level 3s are just more consistent, and that gives it the edge. So I was a Dandadan non-believer. Now I am a Dandadan believer. But for the many, many Dandadan fans out there, do not think I am dissing Dandadan. It has a ton of potential. I think Makeine is just a little more well-rounded in most areas, and that gives it the edge. But I do think this is a very underrated set in terms of competitive play, and aside from Azure, I will stand by that. I think in the English game that this is the best competitive set that we've gotten in the last 6 months. I'll just put that out there. Now, for overall brief recap of my thoughts on this set, I think it's pretty clear for anyone who's stuck through from the beginning to the end that I really like this set, which is why I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. I think the set does a lot right. When the set came out in JP, I had not watched the show. I had heard about the gimmick of being able to go to level 4 without dying. I didn't really look at the set too much. I thought that was fun. It was definitely an interesting mechanic. It caught a lot of attention. Bushiroad definitely gets brownie points for drawing attention to a set with a single card because it was such a unique card, and it still is a very unique card. But I had heard from a lot of people before actually reading the set myself that it wasn't a great set. I'm really not sure why people would think that. I think it was similar to Dandadan, where maybe just at first glance it seems a little underpowered in certain areas. But then I eventually watched the show after having it recommended to me. Once it was announced as being released, coming out in English, and so I watched the show, really loved the show. Then I started looking at the set and just saw that there was so much to like about the set. So many good things, really powerful cards, really versatile cards. The cards look great. There is a good collectability factor. I think it doesn't the only thing I would say that this deck is the best at in the current game is being the choice deck with the most amount of soul triggers, which is not necessarily an award that really matters so much, but it does have an insane amount of 1/0s or soul triggers. That's always a good thing to have 1/0s or soul triggers, especially in choice. However, while aside from that, and aside from being the only deck in the game that lets you hit level 4 without dying, at least in English, and maybe JP, I don't know, but aside from that, which is, I don't mean to dismiss that because that is incredibly, incredibly powerful. This deck may not necessarily be the best at any one thing, but I think it's very much like a Swiss Army knife in a way where it just has a lot of different tools at its disposal. It's very well rounded in a lot of different areas. Competitively, the card design is very, very solid all around. While every set has bad cards, even near perfect sets will have some bad cards printed in them, and this set does have some bad cards printed in it like any other set. I think it has so many great cards, just really, really solid cards that help with consistency. It does have some power behind it. It has some unique mechanics. It has a lot of different tools at its disposal. Every color except green is good, and even green still has some good cards if you're willing to make some sacrifices. Very flavorful to the show, so it's always nice when Bushiroad does that. A very solid set overall. Really enjoyed it. I'm very glad I got into it. I'm very excited to play it. If Oshinoko Volume 2 was not coming out so soon, I probably would be playing this during team season because just of how much I like the show, but I also think it's really underrated. And oftentimes teams is a season where people are a little more casual than singles. Not all people, but a lot of people tend to maybe drift towards sets that they like more than are necessarily their best sets. And it is a bit more of a casual feel to it at times. So I think I would play this during a team season without hesitation. I just think it's really, really great, and I'm very excited to dive into it. So I think that is a good way to end it. Very great set. I hope people look into the set. I hope this video did enough to convince people to do a little bit of research into the set to see the other cards that I didn't mention and see if there's any like hidden gems in the set, and I hope people really buy into it. And let me know what you guys think of the set. Let me know what your thoughts are in terms of the set overall and its competitive viability. And thank you for watching. This has been Catskill's Weiss Schwarz signing off.